Welcome, audiophiles and cinephiles alike, to the Beneflicks podcast, the show where we are reaping the Beneflicks one movie at a time. I am Liz,
I am Tyson.
and I'm gonna die. Good morning. We are 31 minutes. Sorry, guys.
Whoa,
It's been a day. We're 31 minutes off the cusp of morning turning into the afternoon. I have work today, you have work today,
we
but we
do.
did the work yesterday.
The last 2 days.
The last I have been at your apartment in the past, like every single day in the past 3 days. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
that crazy?
We're committed to the grind.
We are, and then after this, it's over. Anyway, how are you doing, man? How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing okay.
Oh,
I am I'm starting to like the earlier recordings. Feels like get our day started, be productive. It,
mm-hmm,
it feels, it's nice and bright out. And I do love like the vibe of a late night recording.
mm-hmm.
I have like a lot of like lamps and stuff in my room, so having the ability to turn those on, the night sky, the city streets,
Yeah,
they're illuminating. Um, but an early record session just feels good. Like it feels like I feel more energy to give, which is nice for this because
dialed in.
people would be shocked if you've never done anything like a podcast before. Not to say like we're the experts or anything, but I do think like any sort of creation requires energy.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd think like, okay, like we're just talking about movies, how much energy do you need? But like to try to maintain a level of like consistency or enthrallment
Mm-hmm.
throughout like for as long as we record, an hour and a half, 2 hours, it does take a little bit of like energy in the tank. If I'm going into a podcast sleepy,
Mm-hmm.
I think it tanks the energy, and
Yeah.
thankfully you always have the energy, or at least a lot more than I do. But
Yeah, again, it's taken years of conditioning and years of the battery from commenters. Like, I will still remember to this day, and I've gotten like a few of these, like maybe like three in my life of people are like, I think the one big one that I remember getting was like, what's the point? Like
yeah,
it was a very tailored
yes,
question to like directly hitting me. And then recently, for one like the big TikTok or no Instagram because Reels it's a treacherous wasteland. Someone commented like it feels like you don't know what you're saying and that's why you are editing yourself down or something like that. And then the people were commenting like, "Oh, and you think you're Shakespeare?" Like I don't understand. And I think like it was also the fact that his comment got like 41 likes, and I was like, hmm. I
whoa,
mean, the post has like over 100K likes, but then I'm like, huh. But then I messaged him and I'm like, I'm just doing me. I'm having a lot of fun. Thanks for the advice. And he's like, wasn't advice, strong critique. Don't like your stuff at all. And then he blocked me. So then it's like,
whoa,
did my little sister have a burner account or
whoa,
something?
that's crazy.
No, I know.
That's like literally like your Morpheus.
It is my Morpheus because there's only like a few specific words that people can say. Like visually, I have been called everything under the sun, and I'm like, no, I trust me. I'm at the front lines saying these things before you guys even say it. Like I am okay with that. But like, then it comes down to just like, oh, like, and there was like one that was on a YouTube video years ago where they're like, I think you use big words because you don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, you told me that one
And I was
before.
like, "Oh god."
Yeah,
Which no, but I
and
could also see it.
it's funny too because you're not that exuberant of like a talker. Like you have a
No.
very diverse vocabulary, but like we've met people who are like kind of like
Yeah.
overcompensating in a sense.
Yeah, like word count to pad out the essay sort of thing.
Yeah,
But I mean, that's all kind of irony when our episodes are this long, but
very true.
especially considering that it's like man, I this episode is going to be very, very interesting for all you listeners. We do also, first and foremost, have a question for today. And if any of you have any questions at all in relation to this episode, the topic, movies, art, life, feel free to email us in at beneflixpod@gmail.com. Comment down below. Anything and all we will respond to, and we love all the same. But even outside of that message we have today, we're doing at a loosey goosey form.
We are.
Um, and I was thinking because I think so much of our friendship has been founded off of me wanting to show you so many works of art before pre-podcast.
Mhm.
This may be like one of, if not the last time, and I say last very loosely, that like there is a pillar film franchise by filmmakers that I love. that I just get to show you.
Yeah.
And I will say that it did make me curious because obviously like we have talked in several aspects about how like it has felt like a lot of it has been more like me showing you movies just because I think I've just seen a bit more.
Yeah.
But like our tastes are so kindred in so many ways. But it made me think of like, is there any filmmaker that you would consider like one of your favorites whose body of work you will never make a movie like, but the way they make you feel is why they're one of your favorites?
That's a great, great
Because
question.
that truthfully was a question that came into my head today because it was just like when people are like, "Oh, The Matrix is my favorite movie," I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And then like when I say The Matrix is my favorite movie, I wonder if any like fellow artists are like, "Do you want to make a movie with like an elf that flies on boots?" You know? So it's like,
I
is
don't
there a filmmaker like that for you?
I don't fully know because I can start to like kind of point at specific areas where like I'm less engaged to create, but I think like the beauty of us specifically and like what we want to do with like creating our own work is
Yeah.
like I don't think we will ever pigeonhole ourselves to be a specific type of filmmaker. And I say that to say like there are things you can pull from any filmmaker that we
Hmm.
love. Like
Hmm.
my first thought was like a Michael Mann. Like would I ever make like an action Michael Mann
Yeah.
movie? And then I'm like, but the way his movies, like, have this weird lens of, like, a ghostly spirit
Hmm.
beyond what you can see or, like,
Hmm.
this sense of yearning and
Good
longing
point.
that a lot of his characters experience, like, that is something tangible that I wanna also create in my art,
Hmm.
and, you know, I've had concepts of ideas of, like, creating work that is, like, in that same realm. Granted, a lot more down the line type of,
Yeah.
like, expectations, but, like, I feel like every filmmaker that we love for a very specific reason that is tangible to create on a lower or, like, more indie scale.
Hmm.
Like, the kind of running joke I feel like with me and you is, like, whenever I write something or whenever I have, like, the idea to write something, like, I give you the 2 most, like, random juxtaposed filmmakers that it's inspired
Yeah.
by, and it's
Yeah.
not like a challenge on my end, it's more so just, like, I
That's how your brain
pull
is wired,
yeah, I just
man.
pull different things, you know, like
Mhm.
a PTA, for example, like, I on a first thought, I was like, "Would I ever make a movie like a PTA, like an ensemble piece that's a
Yeah,
bit more, you know, like, comedically toned, but also has, like, this weird thrill ride to it?"
sure.
And I'm like, "Yeah, like, I'm actively currently writing something that kind of is in that same realm that, like,
Mhm,
is inspired by PTA stuff, you know?
mhm.
Even filmmakers like Schoenbrunn, which you have so much more of an affinity for, I feel like the last 3 or 4 things I've written has been in some degree inspired by either TV Glow or World's Fair. You
Mm,
know, like
mhm.
I think that there are increments of filmmakers that not even that I fully love, just that kind of inspire me or like evoke some sort of thought process from me
Mhm.
that like really get me like get my gears
Yeah.
going.
Yeah, no, I
So
because I was thinking because, like, one of the biggest common threads that we share is how much Sam Raimi's, I guess, 3 films and it brought into light the fact that, like, technically we haven't seen what people consider his best films, which are the Evil Dead films, but,
yeah,
like, with the Spider-Man films, like, the concept of me ever making something within the superhero lens is long gone. I entertained that for, like, a few years, far and away lifetimes ago, but I think to me, there are certain filmmakers hell, I would even maybe consider, like, a majority of the people in my top 5, and I could actually double check because I beautifully done because of you, I now have a note document that has all my top 10 favorite filmmakers. Yeah, because then, like Shyamalan, Wachowski, yeah, no, I would say, like, a majority of them, like, even, like, a Schönbrunn, it's funny because I think they're artists that go the way of music for me, where, of the feeling that they elicit out of me is something that I think is far more inspirational than someone doing something on a formal level.
yeah, I
Like,
agree.
the things that are done and we will so heavily divulge into in today's episode of what the Wachowskis are doing and saying, like, they to me, like, write in poetry and, like, it's so enthralling to me.
I guess we've also recently watched a lot of filmmakers as well and like grown up with a lot of filmmakers because we both were kind of raised off schlock in a lot of instances, like the
Yeah.
grandpa movies and
Uh-huh.
whatnot.
Uh-huh.
I think a lot about how like let's say fingers crossed like the filmmaking thing goes well and like we actually get the opportunity to like get an offer from like a Marvel or a DC and they're like we want to
Yeah.
pit you for a movie. And like it's nice to know that we've seen filmmakers who have worked within the studio confines that have made it work really
Oh, yeah.
well. I would honestly like I would love to give it a shot. Like I like if I
Mhm.
was like more tapped into like the studio sphere and like they were like, okay, we want you to make this $100 million superhero movie. Like at the very least, I know that I've seen some of the best filmmakers do it on that scale that like
Mhm.
it would heavily be like, okay, like I know at least somewhat of what I would want to see out of this, so I'm gonna try my best to portray it for people, other people.
Do you have a filmmaker in mind that you think best would represent the trajectory that I would be going on if I were given $100 million? Because for me, when you say like, "Oh, if a studio gave you $100 million," I'm like, "Oh, you're Josh Trank. Like, you're going to make some great ass shit." And because like that to me is one of the funniest stories. I wish I could find the article. I think Vanity Fair did when Al Capone
Yeah.
came out, the Tom Hardy movie, and they were like the interview opened with like, "We try to find where Josh Frank lived. We got lost for like 25 minutes." And it's like the craziest thing in the world, and just like everything. That Fantastic Four movie is abysmal. Like there is no
Yeah.
revisionism in my eyes, but I do think like hearing what he thought he wanted to make before he even started like full production far more fascinates me than anything else. But like,
I just think like for us, like James Wan and Zack Snyder,
oh,
like that really is
okay,
like that is
okay,
the blueprint, I think. I in the sense where like they are, yes, creating superhero films, but James Wan is like creating like a different, like a very like nostalgic but different feeling sort of
hmm
formal style,
hmm
whereas Snyder is like creating like a Bible based on that as
yeah,
well. Like there's like a weird mixture of combination. I also think like we'll talk about it more with the Matrix movies, but what it all kind of boils down to is like, can you bleed your earnest and your truth and your authenticity through the
hmm
studio budget? Can you
hmm
portray that past the hundreds of millions of dollars that you're getting thrown like towards you? Like, can you show your true self through that? That's
or
like the
yeah.
biggest question.
Or
That's
maybe
what.
even like, sorry, I don't mean
Go,
to
go,
cut
go,
you,
go, go.
but I also think that like what is the opposite extreme of that? Like you do it too much to a point where it starts taking away from the integrity of the art itself, because like I really don't know how I really and I will let listeners in. I have no idea what you think about 3 and 4
Yeah,
and kind of the way that this has been like lined up for us domino wise. We cuz I obviously have my own relationship and I will talk a bit more about that in detail in a minute, but like our dynamics with these movies are vastly different.
yeah,
The filmmakers in question, I think, have sprouted a good seed between the both of us with the movies we have watched by them. Bound was one of the first movies of like three that I had said, "Hey, watch this," when we had first met each other, which is so unique because it's like I didn't even really make that correlation, but like how we first met was on an artist to artist level, but we
yeah,
did the exact same thing we did for this podcast, which was we literally gave each other three movies. The difference being is like we picked one for the podcast episode that introduced it all,
yeah.
but like Bound was one of the first with Minding the Gap shout out and then Dragged Across Concrete. That
So crazy, so crazy.
we don't, yeah. Um, but when artists are given like carte blanche, which I don't think, given ironically, like even the stuff that they did after, I don't know if they got the fullest carte blanche as they did with like The Matrix, because that was the whole story. Is like after 99, they had a meeting. They said, "We think we can effectively shoot," because they shot 2 and 3 back to back, like it was
Yeah.
one big movie. And they said, "I think we need 4 years," and they did. And like again, to this day, I could be totally off base, but I don't think we've ever had it to where on a theatrical level, two movies of a franchise released within a few months of each other.
Yeah, it would be like The Strangers Chapter 1 and Chapter 2.
That's actually a very good point, but like, even like that, like what kind
Yeah,
of hydrogen bomb coughing baby competition is that? But no, I'm just I'm excited. I'm a little nervous. I will say also we are getting off of a nice little fun night we had last night.
yeah.
Have work today, but it does excite me, man. I will say like before we get into like even the art on our mind, like it does make me very appreciative to just live in a time right now, but where I have like my best friend and our close friend Austin, who don't worry, you're slowly climbing the rank, no, very quickly climbing the ranks. We love you, Austin. It's just
Love you, Austin.
what a crazy opportunity. We you and me always talk about like, oh, we need to wait for X movie to be put in theaters, you
Yeah.
know? And in my opinion, Matrix was one of like the big ones, but I never thought it would be the pairing of seeing 3 and 4 in a
Yeah.
theater. Fucking crazy. But I will say, before we get into all that goodness, has there been any art on your mind that hasn't been influenced by the Wachowskis?
By the Wachowskis. Yeah, I've been thinking about V for Vendetta.
The trailer
Yeah.
was really not good.
No, it wasn't. And I'm like convinced like that actually wasn't footage from the movie. Like that was like a separate thing.
I could not tell you, but the fact that it has like a 4.0 letterbox average is kind of crazy
That's
to me.
sick. Art My Mind, yeah. Lake Mungo. You guys were going to watch it or by you guys I mean you and Austin were gonna watch it.
Very true.
Didn't get around to it, but I was supposed to be a part of that little jingle, and I was thinking about that movie a lot, and I was just thinking about my relationship to it,
Mhm,
and it was actually kind of poignant, like um, not to go too into detail, but like having to basically step out from invoking on that like journey with you, watching that movie with you guys, just wasn't feeling the best in terms
mhm.
of like just pure
Sure.
exhaustion, and really thinking about like how that was the movie that like I was missing out on. That
Mhm,
movie truthfully like might be the for me like the greatest depiction upon like not being fully understood but loved, and like
mhm.
how can that love translate even if you're not fully
Oh,
understood.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
That movie fucks me up. Like one of the most important movies to me personally. Like it really, it's such a, it makes my body feel like heavy. Like
Mhm,
it, not even in the sense where like a Dance in the Dark like, will make me sob because
mhm,
of just how emotionally powerful it is for me. But like my will make me sob, but like in like a way where I'm like I don't feel good.
mhm.
I know you have those for you personally.
Sure, but I will say, like, even your feelings on Lake Mungo, like, has influenced me even considering, like, Lake Mungo a beat for beat masterwork, but, like, there is an emotional undercurrent that hits harder or hit har started to hit harder before Austin fell asleep watching Lake
Yeah.
Mungo. Um, I was feeling the immensity of it more than I even had the 2 or 3 times I had seen it prior, dude.
Yeah, no, I truly do love that movie. Because we watched the Matrix trilogy. I've been thinking a lot about the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, and
Mhm.
it's so interesting because I remember originally I was like, oh, like number one's probably my favorite, and it's weird with time. I feel like that narrative has been spun to number two being my favorite,
As you
but
should.
I still maintain the belief that three has my favorite moment. I think like the climax to three is so good,
Mhm.
and a lot of through lines with that trilogy and the Matrix trilogy in some ways.
Sure, sure.
I guess it won't be a comparison that I make too often during this video, but like just the way that three is very much a setup for that grand finale. Two has all
Mhm,
these crazy different action set
mhm,
pieces, and then
mhm.
one is a bit more straightforward, but also like started like almost an aesthetic, if you will.
Trust me, I know.
Um, Also thought about the Spider-Man trilogy a lot. I've been thinking a lot about like trilogies and
Mhm.
like my favorites within them. Is really interesting, not to say at all what I think about the Matrix, but with like Spider-Man and Pirates of the Caribbean, even like Toy Story, for example, the second one tends to be my favorite. And it's so interesting because that's not the case for every trilogy. Like we watched the Pusher trilogy, number one is my favorite.
Yeah.
But I am so curious as to why two, because the whole joke, right, is like twos are usually the best in the trilogy. That's like
Mhm,
always in the joke with like with Star Wars, for
mhm.
example, and three is always like the letdown. Which question for you, I guess, is there an example where outside of the Matrix, like the third is easily the best in the trilogy for you? Because your favorite for Pushers too,
Yeah,
favorite for
my
Pirates two,
Pirates,
Spider Man's
Spider-Man,
two,
Matrix, I don't necessarily count because there's 4 movies, but I get exactly your
and
point.
two and three are basically the same story, so it's a bit different.
Exactly. Oh god.
Because I'm trying to, because your favorite of
Um,
the Star Wars is Empire
l
Strikes Back
well, of all time, of the original
of the original
trilogy,
trilogy.
I probably would say that too. Yeah, I don't have I'm not vested the way that so many people are of that
Yeah.
trilogy, but, like, to your point, even the sequels, Last Jedi is my favorite, the prequels, Attack of the Clones is my favorite, which I know, sorry guys.
Is that the
G
second one?
Yeah, the
People love the third one. I know
pe
people, yeah.
people and I just don't think Hayden Christensen gives what he gives in the second as he does in the third. That's sorry,
Yeah,
guys.
not mean to spin the wheel, but
What? That's a fantastic question because unfortunately, like, I'm no, because I can't even say that about the Spider-Verse because obviously the third one hasn't come out yet,
yeah.
but I was like, if they land it, but it's also, like, what they do with, like, Gwen's story in 2 just it rocks me. Give me a second on that because
Cars 3. That
okay,
might be the only answer based on default.
I just 'cause, there's, like, to me, like, an I don't wanna say an insurmountable task with a trilogy ender because, like, if it's done well this is a cheat, this is a cheat. Knives Out isn't counted, right?
Knives Out, I wouldn't count because they're all very like their own story. What I was thinking though is like there's probably like an audience. a good
Uh-huh.
portion of our audience yelling at us right now that's like, "Oh, Return of the King. Return of the King."
Oh, that's
Eh,
a should we just nip the elephant in the bud right now?
we have not seen the Lord of the Rings movies in a very well, I haven't seen them in a very long time. I know it's been a very long time for you. We
Mhm.
are waiting for like the all three to be shown, the director's cuts in theaters.
Mhm.
That's like ideally how we're able to experience those movies.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. This is so after looking over, I've come to like two that I could say pretty confidently.
Okay.
War for the Planet of the Apes, I do think is the best in the
Oh
trilogy.
yeah, you've told me that before.
Um,
Okay.
and then I guess kind of like in the same vein as like, can you count it? People count it like that is how it's described. The World's End is my favorite in the trilogy.
Oh yeah, you've told.
Like
Okay,
I
yes,
think
yeah,
like pretty like head and shoulders, and even like there's people that agree with me. Like again, I don't need the agreements to like stand on it. I just really do really love the direction that that one takes.
yeah,
Um, other than that, you are kinda right, though, because, like, a majority of the trilogies that even, like, people are listing, I think the second just experiments,
yeah.
where I think, like, you are right where when we've been
Oh
talking about, like
wait, Alien 3. Would you count that?
see, that's I guess, like, that's a whole other different question because, like, there's so many more, but, I mean, between those 3, for sure, like,
Oh, you like Alien 3 a lot more than Alien 1?
I think I there is a level of appreciation that just makes me far and away think about it more. I mean, if like I put back to back or both in back to back, I think it feels kind of unfair to be like, man, what? Because that is like one of the only like few trilogies too, where trilogies, and I say that with air quotes because
Yeah.
there's like 20 of them, where like you truly would not have the third without the first, and there's something about the charm and the minimalism of the first that is so brilliant. Again, like, where I stand with Aliens. I think that would actually go to the argument that you're saying about, like, the second being the best. The second is easily the worst, that I
Yeah.
could say. I That is really fucking tough though,
And
dude.
you love the Christian Bale Terminator, The Last Salvation. Is that the third one, right?
No, the third one, that one's terrible. What's Terminator 3 called? Because that Judgment Day is the second one.
I thought Last Salvation's third, and then the fourth one is like when they start doing like the remake bullshit.
No, so okay, so there's a third one that's really, 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 really
Really?
bad. Um, it has like John Connor as like a teenager, and like the world explodes. It follows like a woman. I don't think it's Sarah Connor.
That's so
Um,
funny. The other movies aren't even listed here. I don't.
I forget quite the.
Oh, Rise of the
Oh
Machines,
God,
2003.
yeah, yeah.
Jonathan Mostow.
Who the fuck is that?
His biggest movie is Terminator 3.
Oh,
So.
that checks out. No, I Terminator films are bad. Like, I think after 2, there's no point, and that's such a weird thing to, like, not be able to crack. Like, there could be something there, you
Oh,
know?
for sure.
Like,
I mean,
people ride for Salvation, directed by V. McG. No, so we'll see.
but yeah,
Any music on your mind, though?
yeah, music. Got a couple tracks I want to shout out.
Please do, please do.
I've been listening to this song from this band called Fat Dog called "Cancel Me." I think you would adore it.
Okay,
I think
alright,
like you actually
alright,
like to
alright, I'll
put it
look it
on
up.
because it's really funny the timing of this song. I found it yesterday, right in the midst of like all of us watching the Matrix movies. It feels like it would be something like it's playing in the dance scene or dance club scene in like the Matrix.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really great. That a song called Bathroom Gurgle by this band called Late of the Pier. Also really interesting. It's like an 80s kind of synthy thing going on,
Okay.
and then it kind of morphs into this more like alternative band heavy track. Really good stuff.
Mhm.
Dark Magic by Quadeca. I've put you on a couple
Yeah,
Quadeca songs
yeah, no, you
before.
definitely have.
He's on a new rollout for an album. I'm really liking everything he's putting out so far. He has another track out, but Dark Magic is the one that has specifically tickled my brain.
Mhm.
And then last but certainly not least, a song by an artist called Backwash. I've listened to her for a little bit now. Really great trans rap artist. I think she is from Africa. Like she has a very thick African accent.
Mhm.
Um, she's phenomenal. The
Alright.
track is from a earlier album in her discography. The title is "I Lie Here with My Rings," and whoa, whoa, whoa. I
Nice
lie
one.
here buried with my rings and my dresses.
Okay.
Crazy stuff. But yeah, no, just but a lot of track listening, not no albums or anything last couple of weeks or
Sure.
whatnot. And then besides that, I'm trying to weed out the games from my life. I'm trying really hard not to like start scratching at the arm and be playing too many games. Even though I played Overwatch yesterday in front of you guys and made myself look like a fucking idiot.
You weren't doing very good,
No,
man.
I was pissed. Whatever though. But yeah, art on my mind been very minimal, but because the major art on my mind has been one that
Mhm.
I can't acknowledge yet.
Sure, sure. Don't worry. We'll open that door. You just have I can show you the door. You just gotta go through
Like
it.
got it.
Um, are you trying to, like, completely cut off games? Like, what's the
No,
logic
no, no, no,
there?
no, not at all. Just I think that like logic being like I can relax while also doing like writing, or I can relax while also watching a movie
Mm,
right now because I feel like my brain is like weaselly. The biggest form of
easily.
relaxation for me is like video games, but if
Yeah.
I it's like with anything that you use as like an escape, like you tap too much into it, it
Mhm.
becomes like a crutch. And I feel like when I was like recently, when I was getting really into Overwatch, I was like, man, like what am I do like, I feel like I'm queuing and making
Yeah,
myself
yeah.
angry, not even, like, doing that much better,
It is
but yeah.
fascinating. I watching you, the thought actually came into my mind because you've talked about for any listener that isn't aware, like our relationship with Overwatch is so funny because you and I had played Overwatch quite a bit before we'd even met each other.
True.
But then when we did, never really talked about it. We brought it up like in the periphery. But then I had an accident that left me immobile. And again, we're trying to find means of like communicating.
Yeah, hanging out.
And I vividly remember on the drives where you would be my little chauffeur and we would do our beautiful excursions together. I was like, flavorfully, I would be like, "Hey, you should get Overwatch again," and you're like, "No, I don't think so. I don't think." And it was like you were prophesizing something that you were trying to keep dormant for so long, and then I convinced you, and it was just evil work. And then we just stopped playing, and then now it's just like, "You should get Overwatch again," and I do think it's a bit of a healthier thing. The thought did come into my mind, I think it was, like, a few times ago that I saw you playing Overwatch and you were doing really good. Um, Addiction to games must be so much different for people who are good at it. Because for me,
Mm,
I'm bad. I'm
mm,
bad, and I make no bones about it. Like, I will not lie to anyone and put on a front and say, like, "Oh, I'm good." Like, I'm terrible, and for me, that definitely bleeds. Like, I start at, like, a 5,
yeah.
and then it just goes down, you
Mm.
know? And sometimes I'll have my good games. The one thing that I think this podcast has helped me with is as I'm listening, those long stints, I can get like a game or two in,
Yeah,
so it feels like I'm kind of doing something.
yeah,
But I've always felt like maybe that's also why GTA 5 has been the game that I've put the most hours into because that game isn't asking you to do anything.
yeah.
It is like not objective based unless you assign an objective.
Yeah, you can just roam around the world with a jet and stuff.
Exactly. And that to me like I can get down with, but no, seeing how good you get and, like, a win feels like a hard fought victory versus, like, a turret placement for me, I'm like, "If I was that good, I would wanna just go again."
I imagine it's like the same experience as like if you're at a slot machine and like you pull a slot and like you need 3 to match and you get 2 to match, and
Okay.
that's like the experience of like when you lose and you're
Yeah.
like playing out of your mind, you're
Yeah.
like, "I worked so hard for this and I was so close, but I couldn't take it past the finish line," and that's
Yeah.
why you keep going because 'cause
Mhm.
you're like, "Well, I was so close that time, I'll
Sure.
win the next one," and
Sure.
no, for sure, and I think as well, like, it is a bit different too when, like, you're doing it by yourself. I feel like getting addicted to a game is 10 times chances increase if you're playing with friends who
That's
are,
a
like,
good point.
encouraging to get on,
Mhm.
because then it's like, "Well, fuck, like, now I have, like, both devils on my shoulders, myself and my friends
How
being
can I
like,
say no?
Play Overwatch, play League of Legends."
Don't League. I remember the era where you'd be playing League a lot with the homies, man.
Don't say that.
Sorry, sorry,
They'll
sorry.
kill me.
That I won't. But okay, for art on my mind at least, not too much unfortunately as you. If you are absorbed, I am truly in the nucleus
Ugh,
of these films, so it's been a bit difficult. There may be the one true filmmaker that every single time I watch one of their movies, barring Jupiter Ascending, I am like, "I wanna get the fix more," and I'm like, "Who
mm,
what other dealer supplies it?" And it's them. So then I feel like I have to like, they're the one filmmaker that I can't just casually put on one of their movies, like, more often than not, the tracking goes, like, I'll watch one of their movies, and then I'll watch another, and I'll watch another, and then another, and that's kind of the way it is now.
mm.
So that's kind of outside of that, I step outside of that, I've been man, I mean, we obviously, friend Austin and I did the watch plunge, watch World's Fair, just to this day, I still think my favorite movie there is, and there's a whole bunch. I've been watching because I got the login again for the castration movies, and I was watching
Mm,
a couple moments from that, and I'm like, again, that's not another movie that I can just be like, oh, let me just start then, put that on the background.
hell no.
Absolutely not. Um, outside of that, funny enough, I got this one movie. Have you ever seen the movie Sorority Row? The like slasher movie?
That sounds familiar, but I've never seen
All
it.
the way back from like 2010. The guy who directed it directed the Max Steel movie in 2016 and the Halo Forward Until Dawn movie that was tied in with Halo 4.
Awesome.
Craziest filmography. Um, I was really digging that. Just a very very stupid fun time. I just what kind of human beings we would have been if we're just born 20 years earlier. Like
I'm scared.
we would have been the worst, don't get me wrong, but, like, the schlock that like, if Legion came out and we're, like, in our 20s back then,
I've been game over.
that would 100%.
Well, I don't know. It really is just based on circumstance. I think a lot about like how a lot of these early 2000s movies probably hit really hard for us more effectively than the audiences that watched them initially
That's
because
fair.
of the realm that we're in now.
Mhm.
Like you're not getting shit like that in theaters now. Like you're not getting like
Yeah.
trying to prophesize and trying to think about a reality where you're getting a Matrix Reloaded in theaters
Mhm.
today is, like, insane, and then even more so, like, a Matrix 3, and it's funny that because I think that people could argue, like, "What do you mean?" Like, that probably set the tempo for what it was to come for the blockbuster
Mhm.
machine in the 2010s, but I don't know, it feels very much like we're not getting those type of movies anymore,
Mhm.
and that's, like, something that you'll always hear someone who's really into film saying, like, they're not making them how they used to,
Mhm.
and that is true, and I think that comes with, like, its pros and cons because 'cause we're getting much more independent and personal
Oh,
film
yeah.
from
Oh, yeah.
a variety of creative voices. But, yeah, no, we are in just a different landscape. Like, the fact that what was, like, the last blockbuster that you and I were like, "Let's go watch that?" Like, blockbuster.
That we're, like, really
Yeah, like,
jazzed to go see.
modern. Like, I guess you could say, like, 28 years, but even that feels a bit, like, removed from, like
Yeah, and that is, like, so hinging on, like, the filmmaker and, like, I guess it also is, like, how are we quantifying what a blockbuster is, like, a budget that it goes
yeah, like,
above?
budget, I guess kind of like a status, like, I guess you can make the argument for Sinners, like,
I
that's
was
a
literally gonna say, I
blockbuster.
think maybe because like,
Oh, I guess Avatar.
were you, like, jazzed for that, though? I kind of forget if
Well, I was yeah, like because 'cause we'd watched Way of Water in
mhm.
theaters beforehand. I was curious for sure, and we both came out loving it. There's obviously, like, Superman, they still come out
Yeah,
incrementally, and
yeah,
I assume it's the same thing for the 2000s. I think it's very easy to be like, "Man, the Matrix movies," and then, like, forget that they were making Skyline and shit like that,
very
and, like,
true.
making, like, Jeepers Creepers 3. Um, like, it's very
Okay.
easy to overlook the schlock because we're so far removed from it,
Mhm,
but I do think, like, it feels few and far between
mhm.
nowadays.
Yeah,
Um, and it's not even like I can't even pin it on like the superhero fatigue anymore. Like it feels like they're not even making that many superhero movies anymore.
mhm.
I don't even know what it is. Like I don't even know what comes out anymore. And that's weird because I work at a place where I know everything that comes out.
Again, people are really, like, weary about, like, these big successes, again, dipping into a whole different genre for a second, but I'll loop it back to, like, Obsession and Backrooms, but I really do think what we need to be, like, talking about more is the failures of the big, big movies that are coming out, like Supergirl's doing
Flopped, yeah.
dismal numbers, like, there is a world I just read a report this morning that said it might not even hit 200,000,000.
And the budget was like at least probably 250, 300.
1,000%, and now they're saying Obsession is going to finish around 400,
Yeah.
like, that 750K movie making twice the amount of the big superhero temple movie, which did all the a-traditional means of marketing that a superhero movie does, big standees, billboards, advertisements.
And it's so funny too, because like even like the report said like made less than Flash, made less than Morbius,
Yeah,
made less than the
yeah,
Marvels. Like
yeah,
how like it is a crazy time to live in because it's not like all of the properties are failing because
mhm.
Fantastic Four did really well, to the best of my knowledge, right? Like that one
It
did
did
well.
like, it did again, the fact that the highest grossing superhero movie of last year was still Superman, and that didn't even crack 700, you know?
Mm,
And, like, we live in, like, a Twilight world, no friends at dusk, like, Spider-Man will do numbers, like,
yeah,
that is, again, a
it'll break
safe,
bank.
reliable one, and my hope, though, is that, like, Destin Daniel Cretton and I do think that's gonna make for a very, very fascinating episode because we, like there's no way that we could have really a truly like, I think we could engage it with it in good faith, but if we're talking about, like, No Way Home, you know, when that came out, I think we admit that, like, John Watts does not have any real juice in those 3 films
Yeah.
very much at all, but, like, if there is juice, how much is it that Cretton is putting out? But, like, is the return just getting more diminishing? Like, it is just such a fascinating thing, and I'm so curious about, like, what is the difference? And there's plenty of answers we can come up with, like, when even, for example, like, Mark Webb, like, when he
Yeah.
was making it, like, I'm having a hard time believing that, like, Mark Webb was doing something that in theory, like, Destin Daniel Cretton isn't. Was it, like, the system itself? Did they give more time in pre-production and post-production? Like,
Well, I mean, you have to keep in mind too, like, that was, like, a movie, like, Hans Zimmer composed. Like, I the there was a
yeah,
very different type of sphere and category that those
mhm,
movies lived in. Like, Hans Zimmer isn't composing fucking movies like this. Like, granted, he was he's composing Batman vs Superman and shit like that, that's lit.
oh, yeah,
But, I don't know, it just feels like such a different time to
mhm.
enjoy that. I guess, like, I think maybe I sell it a bit short. Like, we do have, like, the Dune movies, which exist that are the
No,
big
yeah,
blockbusters. We have the Batman coming out next year, which we are both very excited for.
mhm,
I guess it just feels different because, like, the authenticity of it all,
yeah,
how well could a filmmaker put themselves on their
yeah,
sleeve being an entire superhero project?
mhm,
It's kinda hard to do now.
mhm,
The last person to probably do it was Snyder with, his Justice League, and even then, that feels so grand, bigger than even Snyder can
yeah,
contribute.
yeah,
So I don't know. I guess we will see where filmmaking goes, especially in the sense of like we have Disney acquiring all these big franchises.
mhm,
We have so much like allocation to putting things in home instead of theaters, and
yeah,
those movies were made for the theaters, like
mhm,
not specifically Zack Snyder's Justice League, but like blockbusters as a whole. That was meant to be experienced in a big environment.
mhm.
What happens to that genre or that category of movie when the environment of movies just completely goes to something smaller? I don't
Mm,
know.
I and, like, for every hope that I have, with, like, polls still coming out, like 2025 has been like, or 2026 has been one of the most fruitful years theatrically so far in a long, long time. Independent theaters, like the percentage of attendance has skyrocketed,
Good.
all within our age demographic. But then there's things like on the home video side, like PlayStation, Xbox, no longer going to be manufacturing discs anymore. Whole different hemisphere of things, but it's just like. Truly, obviously, we know like these corporations don't really give a fuck about any of us, but it's also the fact that like man, these things that, like, I adore, like, at some point, like, it no longer is yours, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you can't own it, you can't covet it, so it does make me sad, but again, we'll see if I get even more sad as the episode goes with how I hear what you have to say.
Oh,
I will say shout out to 2 artists that I've been listening to. I'm almost certain maybe you've tapped in. Have you ever heard of an artist called Tierra Whack?
yeah, great.
She's really, really great. And then you've talked to me about this other one, never really tapped into their stuff, Tiffany Day.
Yeah.
Really fucking
Yeah, great.
talented.
Yeah, Tiffany Day is like just the whole joke with her right now is because she again reference back to an older episode. That one corporation that was like the whole kind of psyop geese, like putting
Oh, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that corporation is also worked with Tiffany Day and a lot of artists. Funny enough, that I like haven't really tapped into recently.
Oh, shit.
Um, Thankfully, I think that Tiffany Day is an example of an artist that just makes fun music that's quality enough to justify her
Mhm,
being in the public eye.
mhm,
She's very talented. I loved the album that she came out with recently, and
mhm,
T-Rex very talented. I've listened to her new stuff, but her whole thing was like she wouldn't drop albums. Like her reputation was like she was so talented. Was on the Double XL
mhm.
2018 or something like freshman list. Like people like
Oh, shit.
really wanted to hear from her, and she just was not releasing a full project to the point where like the hype for her kind of like meandered a little bit.
Mhm.
But I heard she's back, and I heard she's still great.
Fuck yeah, most definitely. And then I will say the last, but certainly not least, before we jump into the Matrix, we have a little message, a little question today. It doesn't come through the proper channels of like what we're used
The
to.
Beneflicks pod,
Yeah, but that's okay. Shout out to my wonderful friend and coworker Sophia. We have lived through coffees, frappuccinos, but also pizzas. So thank you so much for sending out this message, my friend. I'm just gonna read off the text as it is.
please.
Um, Coworker friend Sophia says, I was wondering what you guys thought about Toy Story and its impact on the freaking iPad kids. So again, thank you so much, Sophia, for messaging in. And I did ask for specification of if they were thinking about franchise specific or just number five. They said whatever our heart desires. And I know we kind of highlighted in last episode because I had just seen Toy Story 5.
Mhm.
Um, but if you wanted to quickly, if you just felt the need, your thoughts, overview on the Toy Story films, the franchise, and maybe like your relationship with it?
Good movies, not nearly as impactful to me or as good as I think people proclaim them to be.
Hmm.
We talked about Toy Story a lot, not like on the podcast specifically, but just like
Kind of
in
in
the
general,
sphere.
yeah.
Yeah, like a lot, just
Uh-huh.
randomly. Um, I think 2 is my favorite easily. I think it just one actually, okay, I guess I can go through it. The one is the one example of a movie that I think is like I'm not very much a contrarian, like, not in the slightest. Like, I think I very much am in tune with, like, especially, like, the general consensus of a movie's quality, like, films that are beloved, I usually am like, "Yeah, that's beloved. I
Mhm.
love that too."
Mhm.
Films that usually aren't like that much, I stand to have a bit more of an acceptance towards, like, I
Yeah.
enjoy those a bit more, but even still, like, I'm not this huge contrarian when it comes to something that's loved that I think is not very good.
Mhm.
My hottest take I think I've ever had is I do think the first Toy Story is not good.
Mhm.
Um, and it's not an animation thing, like, people will probably hear me say that and be like, "Oh, it's because the animation looks dated." It's not even an animation thing, like, I can fully understand how pivotal and how important that movie was
Mhm.
for 3D animation and where it is now.
Mhm.
It truly is just on a writing standpoint and a character standpoint, I hate every character in the movie. I
Damn,
don't enjoy the ride with them. I think
damn.
they're all annoying and obnoxious, and to some degree, that's kind of the point. But to another point, I find the movie extremely grating, whether it's looking at it or hearing it or
Mhm.
experiencing it. Like the voice acting is very great. Like I'm not gonna put Tim Allen and
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks to shame.
Mhm.
They do their part, but for the most part, I just think the movies are that first movie is very underwhelming, and I
Damn.
think it's not does not deserve the classic status that it holds beyond being just a trailblazer in animation.
Yeah.
The second one is the exact opposite. I adore that movie. I love it. I think it's emotionally powerful. I love the characterizations in it. I think the conflicts are fun. I like the new characters that they add. That
Mhm.
movie works fully for me. I love the second Toy Story. I think it improves upon the first one in every facet.
I agree with that.
The third one, I think, is good. We rewatched that recently. We talked about that on the podcast. I think it's good. I don't think it's the best one, but I do think like I held a bit more dislike for it in the past based
Mhm.
on memory on a rewatch. I think it's a pretty well made animated movie with some good moments.
Mhm.
Fourth one I haven't watched since its release. Thought that one was very middling.
Fuck you.
I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's good. I just think
Fuck
it's like doesn't need to
you.
exist. And not in a sense where like Toy Story 3 was the perfect cap off. I just think it's more so
Mhm.
Toy Story 4 didn't really prove its need to exist.
Mhm.
Have not seen 5.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I will say we differ, mainly on I would technically say about, like, 3 out of the 4, because you
Yeah.
haven't seen 5. I would say that, like, I echo every sentiment about yours with 2, except that I think 4 is my favorite and the best one. I do love 1. I It's funny because shout out, you don't even know we exist, Alex Pop Culture Brain, he made a video about Toy Story, and I never knew that the original version of Toy Story made Woody much more of an evil asshole. Like, he was just, like, a pure piece of shit. Like, he was just a complete dick, very elitist to everyone, and the
Mm,
test screenings went horrible. They're like, "Who is this for?" Like,
mm,
we're making this movie. We How are we gonna sell this at all? Like, how can we sell a toy that is inherently just mean, you know? And
mm,
even, like, Tom Hanks, like, called the original version of Woody, like, an asshole. And so,
mm.
very interesting that you pinpoint the unlikability of them. I dig it. I also just, like, love the novel look of the animation, and for anything that, like, makes me hate AI more, I watched recently, like, a clip of, like, how they would animate these films all the way in the late '90s. It truly is, like, an impossibility. Like, how they were able to do it is unbelievable to me.
Yeah.
And to see these people fold in the face of AI, in one regard, I was like, "Oh, they probably felt like a sense of self-righteousness where they're like, 'Oh, I did the work. I deserve this.'" Like,
Yeah.
but it's just to me, like, pussy shitting it out. Like, it's just like, "What are we doing?" I love 2. 3 is not nearly the darling that people say, and I think 4 to me is actually the most, like, endearing. Like, I love the centralization of Woody, and in terms of For your answer or your question, Sophia, I will say I'll probably take the reins on it a little bit because I have seen 5.
Yeah, I'm a moron.
You will never see it, and that's okay. That's okay. It's an odd thing, I will admit, because on the one hand, like, I will say that I think my Toy Story 5 is my least favorite. I think it is the messiest. It has the most inconsistencies, but I'll be damned that, like, the core of the story being around Jessie and her story, her plight, her realization, and how that intertwines with the toys versus tech narrative, I actually did think worked in spades. I just wish we got more of it. Now, where my issue sort of kind of comes in the more nuance and minutia of the conversation with your question about like talking about and commenting about like iPad and technology screen time usage, I think the movie aptly doesn't make an immediate umbrella statement of tech being bad because I think we're far beyond that point, and I don't think that is at like giving any real good insight anymore. Like we are so far beyond that. That is truly like the most boomer take of like if you don't understand it, it's immediately bad. And I do think like there is an angle that the movie plays on, which is that like tech used in the right capacity could be for good. Um, I just do think there is a level of hypocrisy and like unfortunately like there is starting to become a much more evident trend of like you can kind of feel the sanitization of how many passes went through this script, and it feels very much like Pixar. Like I was actually I forget who made the comment. One of I think it was Carson Runquist or one of the guys that make YouTube videos. He basically said like watching Toy Story 3, like there's no way they could have made a Lotso today. And it isn't even about people being too woke. I just think there is a level of grit that no longer I think is going to be hitting Pixar films, especially after like I think it was Pete Docter himself who said that like they're steering away from director story focused films and more so overviewed feelings of what is going on. And I think that's in direct response to the backlash that like Luca, Soul, and Turning Red got. All three I think are terrific. Um, so like how good can messaging get when you can feel the probably like 12th draft of the script where it was like everything was fine-tuned with a fine-tooth comb, but I still think it is a timely message, especially funny enough for adults. I wish the movie leaned more into the fact that the parents are kind of the true villains of the movie because of them giving this access to Bonnie, and like there's never really a dialogue had about it. I think it is timely. I think it is very much something that needs to be said. I just wish it went harder in saying it. So
Preach, I agree with everything you said, even though I haven't seen it.
thank you. Thank you so much, Sophia. I hope you're doing well. I look forward to working with you soon. But now we got that out of the way. And I'm gonna go home. I okay. I think what needs to be stated off the rip, like I said earlier, is not only do I not know your thoughts about 3 and 4,
Mhm,
I know your thoughts pretty much to a full enough degree to get the visual of what you think about 2.
mhm.
We
Well,
have
for this is important context. This is the first time I'm watching 2, 3, and 4
yes,
with, like, eyes. Like, I
yes,
watched, I think, for sure 2 and 3 when I was younger,
hmm
with my grandfather. I remember certain scenes from it, but, like, I have
yeah,
not watched those 2 and 3 in their entirety
yeah,
as an adult. And then 4, I made a comment, like, I think I've seen, but in rewatching it, or I guess or watching it, I
hmm
realized, like, I'd only remembered 1 scene, and it was, like, a single frame. So I was like, "Okay, I think I probably looked up from my phone at some point to look at the screen, and that was
yeah.
what I was remembering."
hmm
So this is my first time watching 2, 3, and 4.
Okay. And within that, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna get trapped into like describing the plot of these films because I think it's been in the mainstream consciousness for so long. But I also think there is an element that if you've never seen it and you don't really know what the films are about, what the fuck are you doing? Stop this episode and go watch it right now.
Please.
Um, but there was a question that came into my mind, and I think we're just gonna kind of talk about this a little bit loose with the fact that we're talking technically about 4 movies, but I
Mhm.
think it's all wrapped into one package. I had kind of I had posed this question to you before of before we had dove into these films, is there a word that you could use to describe the films in your head before this, and then now having seen 1 through 4 in these open eyes, what would that word be now?
Mm. Beforehand, as someone who understood that the first one is the main cultural's, like, attraction that it is, it's
Yeah,
mainly the first one,
yeah,
my word would have been aesthetic. I think that the first Matrix
fire.
is pretty intrinsically tied to its aesthetic to a
Mhm,
point where, like, that
Mhm.
like that spearheaded an entire like kind of what's the word? Like I would say trend or like
Movement.
fashion zeitgeist
Oh, yeah.
movement exactly. Like The Matrix, when you hear that word, you think of a very certain color palette, a certain like leather type, a
Mhm.
certain
Oh, yeah.
visual that is
Yeah.
established with that first movie
Music, a
specifically.
whole
Exactly.
bunch.
Like and you know, you can kind of tie that to Y2K because that's 1999, right
Mhm.
before Y2K
Mhm.
and everything. Like it's very like digital, but also kind of like noir,
Oh, yeah.
grimy, streetwear.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, when I think of like beforehand, before I'd watched two, three, and four, and you know, establishing that franchise of the word, it was aesthetic. It was very much tied to its aesthetic of
Mhm.
color and whatnot.
Mhm.
Now, after watching all four, um, I'm it's kind of a lame one, but I think it's very much true, and I kind of pointed to earlier, personal.
Mm.
I think that's the word I would use to describe these four movies.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
all in different facets and personal in different ways, not even
Sure.
just tying to the fact that like the first one is often pivoted as like this trans allegory, but I think it's so much more beyond that in terms of just
Mhm.
escapism and so many different levels of spirituality that incorporates in the second and third, and then even so with the fourth one, like
Yeah.
I didn't give my thoughts to you or Austin last night, but I did make reference to like it feels extremely personal, and so
Mhm.
I would use that word to describe the four movies as of now.
Okay. I again, there's no right or wrong answer. That actually says I was not expecting that. And I'm going to admit, I love you, Austin. You were fucking evil last night.
Austin,
And
you're mean.
so I okay. So these movies mean the world to me. These movies, and they've meant the world to me, especially within the past few years. My stepbrother, this was his favorite movie. I watched it because I wanted to impress him. Didn't think much of it. Then I rewatched it again, and the love just felt follow suit with it. But it wasn't until the pandemic, especially like 2021, when Resurrections came out, and I got COVID from No Way Home. Kind of like a weird sort of irony. Like people look back to the fact that like Resurrections, regardless of what you think of the movie, which is saying a lot about franchise and audience goers, came out the same weekend as No Way
It
Home.
was the Christmas release, right? Like
It
they both
was,
came out on Christmas. That's so
and,
funny.
and like I got COVID because of No Way Home, but that allowed me to watch it, and that's when my relationship started. But last night was very much inebriated, and our friend Austin, and I'm also bringing him up because we kind of discussed what we thought your thoughts were going to be, especially about 3 and 4,
Yeah.
especially because you said you're gonna wait for the pod, element of surprise. Um, and again, I have no idea what you think. And you were like, what I will say is, when the sky is blue on a certain evening's duh, like you're speaking in Sanskrit to me, and I didn't know, and I still was so inebriated. So if you said it, I probably would have forgotten. But like, I'm quite nervous and intrigued. I bring up Austin to say that like he told me that he thinks you are not going to like 3 very much at all and
Mm,
easily think it's the worst, but you
mm,
will find merit and appreciation in 4.
mm.
And I said to him that my hope is that at least, I mean, in a picturesque world, you guys love both,
Sure.
but in a reality, in real terms, I said the swing for the fences, the home run would be that you at least give one of these movies a 4. And I
Mm,
say that because I know like a rating is a rating, but like to you, a rating is very, very personal. That's why like you are very sparing with how many films you give a 5.
mhm.
And the 4 was kind of a benchmark. And I said, like, even to Austin, we finished these movies. Austin gives the third one a 4, hates the fourth one.
Yeah.
Um,
And I do think it's an important contextually to know, like, when he made the observation or, like, the guess of, like,
mhm,
I think Tyson will hate 3 and
mhm,
admire 4 more,
mhm.
he that was before he had rewatched 3 and
This is
4,
true. This is
and
very
s
true.
because from Austin's memory, 3 was also, like, his least favorite,
Mhm.
and then he watched 3 again last night and was like, "Oh, like, I was wrong, like, that movie was, like, amazing."
Yeah, and like he ripped into 4,
Yeah, he
like
hated 4.
ripped, like in a way that like I think that'll probably be like a temple. Like, oh, we'll cite that as like, oh yeah, I don't think we could have been more different. Like, and again, like I will reveal my tell that is not really much of a tell. Like I made it pretty known. I give all of these 4 films a 5. Like I think they're masterstrokes. And obviously, I'm not trying to just talk about 3 and 4. I'm just kind of laying out the ground to say that I have no idea what you think.
Mhm.
Do you want to kind of talk for a second about like what you think about the first 2?
Yeah, why not? So rewatching the first Matrix, I've seen that one a couple times before, especially in recent memory.
Mhm.
My most recent watch it, which was 2 days ago, I really, really was like, oh, like I think I undersell this movie and its quality. I do love the first Matrix. I think that it's like an extremely effective piece on sci-fi storytelling. I think that obviously like everyone can point at certain scenes and be like, this is instantly iconic and instantly like in the cultural zeitgeist.
Mhm.
And there's a reason for that. Like I think the movie has a very specific look, a very specific feeling. It's a very just cool movie. Like you,
Yeah.
no matter how you place it, like the movie is cool as fuck. Like the characters all wear sunglasses inside at nighttime. They have
True.
these crazy leather black trench coats, like the kung fu and martial arts, the gunplay, the pieces of building like exploding off. Like
Mhm.
it is so over the top, but so self serious, and it is truly like in its own realm.
Mhm.
It feels extremely cool to watch. Like it's there's a reason that movie is loved for a myriad of reasons that the fourth one kind of points out, like whether it's analytically or allegorically or just on a surface level, shooting guns, bullets. Like that movie works for so many different demographics of people because it is so specifically one. It's so unique in its own very specific way, to a point where if you watch The Matrix now, you're like, I've seen that before.
Mhm.
You've seen it before because The Matrix is literally interconnected to feel it. I feel like everything in our
Yeah.
culture now. Like
Oh, yeah.
there that you cannot make a movie without drugs or a club scene without it being somehow tied to the Matrix. You cannot make a movie without leather black without it being tied to the Matrix. You can't make a movie without green without being tied to the Matrix or
Oh, yeah.
computers or technology. And it is really funny because although it feels extremely of the 90s and of the early 2000s, it also feels very poignant to what we have nowadays because it
Mhm.
got so much right and so much accurate.
Mhm.
The fact that like Neo is like a Redditor in the first one, like he's like a ultimate chud.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love the first Matrix. I think it's extremely effective, and I think it's one to easily sell short because of how iconic it is. But it is a very effective movie, and it is shot impeccably. Like Bill Pope is such an interesting figure in our lives because he
Yeah.
shot some of our favorite stuff.
Yeah.
Also shot some of the worst movies ever.
Yeah.
Um, but he really does got it down. So shout out to The Matrix. I'm very glad it exists. I will say my only qualms, and I will lay out my qualms directly because I think The Matrix will be the one that we talk about the least in this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
Only just because it is like as iconic as it is, and everything has been said that can be said about The Matrix.
Mhm.
My two issues with The Matrix, the first one being that the ending of The Matrix is inherently tied to this love story between Neo and Trinity, and that is fine, especially with knowing where the trilogy goes, and especially that
Mhm.
fourth one.
Mhm.
But because the first one isn't as directly of a continuation as two is to three, the
Yeah.
first one is can work on its own.
Mhm.
I do think that the ending being so tied to them being in love is not earned with the scenes that we are given in the first one. And not to say that the scenes that we are given aren't good, but
Mhm.
isn't enough of it. The movie is doing so much legwork with trying to get you engrossed in this sci-fi universe of the Matrix and also outside of the Matrix that
Sure.
it has to give so much time to building that up and building up Neo and building up this world and
Yeah.
how the rules of this world that it does secondhand Trinity and Neo's story, which I think hurts the ending of it
Sure.
quite a bit.
Sure.
Like I don't buy it. But besides that, like the only other issue I have is not even fully an issue, just a personal preference. Like the movie is written in a way where Neo is pretty flat, not from like a Keanu Reeves standpoint, but more so just like Neo is written to kind of be this blank slate audience that
Mhm.
he is the eyes that we are seeing this crazy sci-fi universe through. So by proxy, a lot of the conversations that involve Neo or characters explaining to Neo how he's always felt his entire life that
Mhm.
Neo is not verbalizing,
Mhm.
so it does kind of make Neo feel a bit robotic and a bit like, okay, I don't really care about your journey as a main
Yeah.
character, as well as just from like a writing and like enthrallment standpoint. It is kind of an exhausting watch just having the same kind of like these characters explaining to Neo how he feels throughout the entire runtime. It gets a bit repetitive, gets a
Mhm.
bit exhausting by the end of it.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't think it's that much of a flaw, especially because I have seen much worse versions of how the Matrix does it in modern
Yeah.
day cinema.
Yeah.
However, I will say like that does hurt it on an individual level for me, just how it is written. Like I said, just a personal preference. I don't think it's a writing issue, but rather just how the movie is inherently made.
Mhm.
I'm someone who is much more engrossed with the main character being fleshed out and thorough. Whereas the Matrix is much more like the side characters are kind of like the meat of the meal,
Mhm.
and Neo is the mouth, right?
Yeah.
Like you need the mouth to eat the meat.
Mhm.
Whoa, pause.
Oh, no,
Um,
you're good. You're
eat the
good.
meat, eat the meat. But yeah, a beautiful film. And then watching Matrix 2, had never seen it before,
Yeah.
had seen very
Sorry. Sorry. Continue.
I've
Continue.
seen very like minimal things on it, and it basically took every issue I had with The Matrix 1 and exploded it and made it into such a cooler, amazing experience. I think Matrix 2 is, like, so fucking amazing in so many myriad of ways, and up until that point, it was probably my favorite Wachowski film that I had seen, because I had not seen 3 and 4 yet, but probably my favorite Wachowski film that I had seen. It is just pure just amazement. It's a visual crafting of just imagery and pure authenticity, and
Mhm.
this is where like the films extremely feel personal to me. And I'm it's come out and said like the original version of Matrix would have been a bit different in terms of its characterization with like the LGBTQ representation and transgender representation.
Mhm.
But and then that first one was extremely personal. Of course, you can feel it and see it, but with The Matrix 2 and 3 and as for this argument or this conversation, Matrix 2, so extremely personal. Like like
Mhm.
the fact that the ending alone is just like this inclination, like this feeling of having someone literally be the reason your heart is beating.
Yeah.
And that is an extremely poignant and powerful and from a poetry standpoint, but from a visual standpoint, like it is just such an
Mhm.
effective idea to play upon. And then you have not only just these extremely effective moments of pure authenticity and emotion,
Mhm.
but then you also have some of the coolest action set pieces ever. I think it's very easy to point to like the highway action sequence as like the number one like
Mhm.
action scene in the franchise.
Mhm.
But every single action sequence in that movie works so well for me. Even like the Broly fight, which
Mhm.
people point to as like a critique. We
Yeah.
just gushed about Sucker Punch recently. Like video game
Very fair.
effects, video game CGI does not bother me in my action sequences, especially when it's being used not as a crutch, but rather like as a because we cannot do this in a practical form, we
Mhm.
need an impossible way to portray this. We're going
Mhm.
to do it in CGI
Yeah.
when it's not used as a crutch, but rather as a stylistic choice that complements the practical effects and the practical work. It is done beautifully in the Matrix Reloaded movie. It is it works so well for me. The sound design, like our good friend Austin said, like is so effective. It's goofy. It's more goofy than the first one, like the movie is
Oh, yeah.
internally overall, but I think that works better for what these movies are, which is just craziness,
Mhm.
like pure sci-fi madness. The goofiness is like an added little love tap, and
Sure.
I love that about the movies. And then
Sure.
you point to that rave dance sequence and the love making sequence as maybe this the best the series gets. I'm not even gonna disagree with you. I think
Mhm.
just such beautiful moments that are intertwined with the coolest action you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think that there's a clear energy to like that one. I think like the conversation sequences work so much better. It's no longer, hey Neo, this is how you have felt, and we
Mhm.
understand that because we felt that too. It
Mhm.
is Neo actually having an arc and having to come to terms with his place now as like this messiah figure
Yeah.
for these people, but also trying to balance it out with like his true affinity and love for Trinity.
Mhm.
It's been pointed out before. I'll make the same comparison again. It feels like the Superman movie that we've never gotten.
Mhm.
It feels so authentic, and it's embedded in its love, and it's embedded in its emotion, and what it has to say on belief and the things we choose to believe in and when we believe in them and why we
Yeah.
believe in them.
Yeah.
It's there's a very clear prominent message with the second movie that is like, yes, like it is goofy at times, but it is made the way it is for a very specific reason, and that's why I love it so much.
Mhm.
I think like this might sound horrible, but like the second one was clear proof that I don't really ever need to revisit the first one unless it's
Mhm.
for a very specific reason, because I think the second one is just a more effective action film. The only thing I would give the first one above the second one, which I still stand by, is I do think the first one looks visually better, like on a
I can
cinematography
understand that.
standpoint.
Yeah.
But the second one's also giving you the craziest digital visuals and
Mhm.
CG visuals that you've ever seen.
Mhm.
So yeah, all in all, like just I adored the second one, and it was one where I was like, yes, I was inebriated for it, but like I can just tell, like I'm gonna want to come back to this in spades because
Yeah.
it just is such a good fucking time. It
Yeah.
feels good. It means well. It is pure blockbuster filmmaking done Gonzo style, but in a
Mhm.
way that doesn't feel like they're overcompensating because they don't have the love to put behind it. It,
Mhm.
it feels like it's working on a emotional standpoint, but also formal standpoint as much as the two sisters can.
Exactly. I mean, I can wonderfully, wonderfully said, and I almost like to a very fine like, to a point, like, I agree, like, with everything you say, and I think it is unfair to criticize, and it isn't even a criticism, but more an analysis, sort of like read is like they have said so often about how making the first, like they had to make it right. Like they had to because without it,
Yes.
like they wouldn't have made the sequels. They wouldn't really maybe have had the career that they did. And
Yes.
I think why Reloaded, like there was a click for me not even when I had, because I remember watching Resurrections, and then I watched them all, and I had an appreciation, but I think, like, if I remember correctly, I gave, like, Resurrections a 4.5, first one a 5, but then I think I gave the second one, like, a 4, and the third one, like, a 3.5.
Mhm.
So kind of, like, in line, just with a much lighter feeling with the public conscious, but, like, I think it was then watching Cloud Atlas, Speed Racer, hell, even Jupiter Ascending, Sense8 again, like, you can clearly tell, like, when in those 4 years, there was something that was discussed, felt, projected into their art that would then be the template for how they would make everything after, you
100%.
know? And like, I've even told Austin, like, the first one is my least favorite, despite I think it being, like, one of the greatest to ever do it,
Uh,
and it being the framework for so much, like you said, but it is playing with these notions of spirituality, and it is trying to inform rather than for you to feel it in so
yes.
many moments, and while I think that is fundamental because how the fuck else is anyone going to be tapped into the Matrix, especially for 99? Like, I get it, and I think, like, it is so well written, and like there is expository dialogue, but when it's delivered and framed and constructed as meticulously as they're doing it in the first, it works for me, you know?
Yeah.
And there is, like you're saying, an earnestness, I say commitment, like we're saying the same thing. Um, but the second like revels in it. And it's
Yeah.
funny because like being fucking stoned out of my mind watching the third, you can clearly tell that the way that the Wachowskis write, the way that I kind of described it to Austin, is as if like each line of dialogue is a step climbing upstairs. And whenever a dialogue ends with someone, good, bad, Smith with a one liner or anything, like the last step is like a jump, like
Mhm.
someone like jumps. And it is to kind of punctuate, it is kind of to illustrate the poetry of a moment. It's to reinforce something that was brought up before. It's a zinger that Smith says, you know, like but and, like for many, and I do think they almost even double down with it the further that you go into the franchise, that level of like transparency in their writing, you know,
Yeah.
like I could, and like this is kind of like saying a moment of like in four, every single time like a character comes on screen, Neo basically says their name, you
Yeah.
know? And like I could tell Austin was just done with it, you know? But for me, like I just buy into it. And it isn't even a pass because they're gay as shit. It isn't even a pass because like, oh, everything else is working so well. Like I think that is a core feature to who they are as writers. And like they put everything on full tilt emotional, like on their sleeve. And why I think two works for me in spades and why some days I consider it to be my favorite is because it revels in it. And I think like honestly, there's so many moments like in the Nebuchadnezzar in the first one where Neo is just like this fly on a wall, just traversing and is reacting. And like there's moments with like him and Joe Pantoliano's like cipher that are
Yeah.
great where he's like talking about like, are you the one? And here's Dozer's paint stripper. Like it's wonderful moments. But like I look back on like a moment in two where like him and the admiral are talking about
Yeah.
like the importance of machines in the relationship, like every single moment of dialogue feels less expository and more just pure emotion,
Yeah.
you know? And like that is I think where like the well starts running dry for people is because it's like most of these moments are either people saying whether they believe or they don't, you know, and
Yeah.
how that sort of then illustrates how they act.
Yeah.
But like again, like I bought into it from the jump, and I further just get more into that down as we go. And I'm so glad, like I lied to you like to your fucking face about there not being any sex because
Yeah.
you had brought up the point of like, do they have it like? And again, I'm not saying like you are like a heathen, like a goon. You know, you're
I
like,
guess more so because I thought at one point I remember you saying there was sex in the movies, like just
mm,
offhandedly a long time ago, and then
mm-hmm,
I was asking for clarification because I was thinking about Sense8 because I find I've actually had seen an Instagram post the day before we had watched the movies on Sense8, like one of like the last later episodes, like maybe a special or
yeah,
something, but like they saw like a big orgy, and I was like,
yeah.
the Wachowskis don't do sex in their movies, and I was like, that's why I was asking you.
Well, I mean, technically speaking, I mean, I could be like Speed Racer, like we can't, like for obvious
Yeah.
reasons. Jupiter Sending there isn't, But I mean, in Cloud Atlas, there is like, if you even remember, like
Nope.
Heisho Chang, okay,
Oh,
never
right,
mind.
yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Like
Yeah, yeah,
right before they fall. I think it's actually like the moment Sonmi sees them being turned into the milk that they drink, the
yeah,
soap. That but like there's bound they're in the Matrix now, but I would say it's like an even split of like sex to non-sex, but
yeah.
like Sense8 is all sex.
They get freaky.
And I think like their sensuality and how that is tapped into how they feel and how they've expressed themselves on a gender level is so on full display in the Matrix films. And I think the second like is like I do think that that moment on Zion is to me like that is going to my grave worthy scenes in a film. Like
Yeah,
I think like and the fact that so many people just don't talk about it and like Morpheus's speech and everything like and it makes total unapologetic sense. And I will be honest with you, I did not think you were gonna I my projection with you was just goes down. After one, like you gave it a four, that left me intrigued because I was like, okay, there's room to grow, but there's also room to go down from
yeah,
there. And no franchise, the best should be at like a four. You know, like
yeah,
that is unfortunate, especially the first one. You know, because then like it just hurts the longevity of like where the franchise goes. And
yeah.
I was hoping, but I had purposely lied to you because I was like, if for anything, my core sanity, I at least know you'll have a moment in this movie you're gonna like. And I think that moment is to me, at least like especially watching it over and over again, that is the moment where the film just like you say, goes full flow.
Yeah, no, I will admit that, like, before that point, I was running with it, but, like, I wasn't fully like, "Okay, like, this is good." I
Hmm.
was also like, "This is different. Maybe this isn't gonna work for me." Like, maybe, like, I actually like, these movies aren't meant for me because
Hmm.
notoriously, like, I don't like Cloud Atlas that much, and that's one
No.
of your favorites ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I'm just, like, missing the Wachowski gene, and, like, it only clicks for me for, like, Speed Racer
Yeah.
and
Oh
Inbound.
yeah.
But yeah, once that the Zion scene happens and they're all dancing and they're fucking and whatever, like
It's
that's when the movie gets in gear and then it just does not stop. Like everything works. Like even I think about like right after, like when they have that scene where he's talking to like basically like the president or
hmm
whatever,
hmm
Zion, and like they're
hmm
talking about like the codependence on AI and humans and whatnot. Like that works for me. Like I don't
hmm
know, just it's so funny too, like the fact that they're the same writers, no one else is new. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
feels like the conversations are a lot more like there is actual like arcs to them, there is
Hmm.
actual intention behind them. Like it does the first Matrix feels so its main priority is to get you to believe in the universe
Yeah.
that the Matrix is. The second movie is like, I don't give a fuck if you care what the Matrix is or how it works. Just you gotta believe what these characters
Yeah.
individually feel within it.
Hmm.
Which I think is a crucial for what the Wachowskis are so great at, which is their spirituality and there is a clear through line with their insistence to believe
Hmm.
in love, believe in what your purpose is, believe in what you do has an impact, believe that even if you know something like racing, that
Hmm.
racing can change the world.
Hmm.
So I think that's like crucial to the movies and specifically like seeing our relationship with Neo and everyone's
Hmm.
believing in Neo because the whole thing with Morpheus, the more the series goes on, is Morpheus' whole thing is his one character trait is he's the crazy guy that believes in
Yeah.
Neo.
Yeah.
But even then, like the second movie, like just scenes where like they take off the Keymaster's key necklace like it's a cross, or even
Yeah.
just him having like the chains that his wife gives him, Tank or not Tank, Link,
Link. Yeah.
yeah,
Link.
Link has
Link.
like the
Yeah.
chains and like just that small increment like might as well like
Hmm.
and we'll talk about it, but there is just well I think just as writers they are they are writers kind of like Shyamalan. Like it's
Oh
so funny
yeah.
that
Yeah.
they're twist like that for you. There are writers where like their writing can either be yes, like are hitting it right there,
Hmm.
you're hitting my G spot,
Hmm.
or they are like no, like it's too
It's
deep. It's
pain.
too deep.
Yeah.
And it is and it's funny too because you asked a couple episodes ago like filmmakers who like affect my writing and whatnot, and I
Hmm.
brought up Todd Field and whatnot. I do, funny enough, think that like Shyamalan and by proxy the Wachowskis also like are super influential on like the way I write scripts and write stories
Hmm.
because I'm very similar with my dialogue where like I do like to end on like a leap. Like
You do.
I love to end on a leap because I think that like there is something that is very like singular about scenes and to
Mhm.
have a scene kind of have like a punctuation or like a capitalization at
Yeah.
the end of it
Yeah.
is like it makes you like fester on the scene as a one component
Yeah.
thing, and then you have these components that make up the movie and yada yada yada. But long
No,
story
you're
short, I don't think they're bad writers. I think there's a very specific type of writer.
and again, you don't ever have to crutch yourself. Again, I'm feeling like Marty Mauser at the end, like when he beats the guy in ping pong, like when he's like on the ground, like
Yeah.
that is what I'm literally hoping this following conversation goes for, and maybe that's why I'm like nervous to like jump into it. But I will note that like you are 1,000% right. Like the exclamation point is a good thing because like it isn't like they're saying it in a higher cadence. Like it's just the words have like this launch pad of intent and like it's an after like the first Matrix, every one of their movies, like you bring up that conversation with the president of
Yeah.
Zion, and he's like, old people like us aren't here for making points, you know, and then
Yeah.
like he makes that line, he's like, good point. Or like there's like things I think about that moment. I know you kind of don't really remember, but like in Cloud Atlas, when the Tom Hanks character in the storyline with Louisa Ray, Halle Berry's character, who's like the detective, he's talking with her out on the balcony,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Do you ever like just like that feeling of like you're meant to be somewhere where you're needing to be?" And that whole movie for me is just a myriad of those conversations. But even in like fucking Speed Racer, it's his dad and the Ben Burns Stickleton like race, and they are every single and that I would even say is more so than Shyamalan, maybe off of pure like versatility, but also he has more movies made. I think Shyamalan is all about like immersion in the stories, and like he has a crazy way of writing to where it's just like the first time you watch it, you're like, should I be laughing right now? Like, what is
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah, exactly.
But like with Lana and Lily, like every single thing that they write, every single line of dialogue, like it is not at all how you would converse with people, but it feels genuinely like I'm watching a haiku being spoken, and like
Yeah.
it is fluid like water, and they're just poem makers, man.
It's really interesting to the way that they write because I'm not even saying this because like it's a Matrix thing. I'm like not trying to make a loose connection, but it feels as if like their conversations take place in the Matrix and their last lines or the last like back and forth of each scene is them exiting the Matrix. Like it's
Sure,
almost like
sure.
you lose the need to be societally and like conversationally like
Mhm,
invested
mhm,
and you just almost like brain splurt like you just
mhm,
give what your thoughts are saying.
mhm.
And I think it's like a very powerful thing because like it almost recontextualizes the way a scene can act.
Yeah.
I also think as well, like the Wachowskis are not afraid to make you be like, this is a movie.
Oh, yeah.
Shyamalan is like, I want you to buy into my world.
Yeah.
The Wachowskis are like, no, like you're watching something that's fake,
Mhm.
but like think about
Revel in it.
revel in like the fact that
Mhm,
it's fake.
mhm.
So I think like they very much have two different intents, but there is a clear through line, which is very funny because those are like I think your two favorite filmmakers. I think are on your ranking
Yeah.
they're both one and
Yeah.
two.
Yeah,
So
like, I and again, every time I watch, like, one of their movies, I'm like, "No," it's like, I'm getting unfiltered gasoline from the only people that can sell it.
yeah,
But here we are,
here we are.
because you also had made a comment where you're like I think it was before Reloaded or after Reloaded, and, like, if you do the math, the brass tacks, like, Matrix works for you, Bound works for you, Speed Racer works for you, and Matrix Reloaded works for you.
Yeah.
Jupiter doesn't work for
Nope.
you. You have the two Matrix sequels and Cloud Atlas. So like they're kind of at like this point now where my hope at the very base level is you come out of it understanding A, why they mean so much to me. And I think you didn't need to watch The Matrix to know that.
Yeah.
But also I hope you come out of it respecting them a bit more. Maybe not to say that you didn't, but like
Yeah.
you would admire them. But like my hope is that you fucked with it. And I'm gonna be so honest with you. There is a lot that is asked of you as if you're like when you're starting three,
Yeah.
because it is packaged like a movie, even though it is quite literally a big final like build up and
To
then
be
release.
continued. Yeah.
Exactly. There is a lot that is thrown at you. The train man, the like all these things that are
Yeah.
happening. And you go in, and I will say thank you to the Long Beach Art Theater in
Yeah.
Long Beach,
Shout out to you guys for playing the Matrix movies.
for planning them. But I will say that like you are we're very much meticulous. We even like through the workshop the idea of like making a theater ranking video
Yeah.
because like we care so much about that
The
experience.
environment's important.
Odd vibe, I will
For
say.
surely.
Like I think it was a bit of the workers to a point where I don't think like well I digress about like the theory that you have about like the workers. But like it's one where it was so what that I'm also like, you know what? Because like it just unfortunately felt like they kind of didn't really want to be there. They weren't rude, they weren't bad at
No.
all. It just was like
There's a
uh,
vibe.
there
There's
was
a
a vibe
vibe.
exactly, and so like again the seats weren't the comfiest, and I could tell the moment I took a look at those like wooden backs, I'm like we're fucked. And
Yeah.
you're a tall person, so like it affects us differently.
Yeah.
And as Revolutions is going, I'm like oh no, oh no. But then the high kicks in, and I'm like gone, like I'm
Yeah.
gone. And I won't lie to you that basically like that first like 30 to 40 the self-consciousness eroded and it never really came back until we got in the car and Austin was like literally like slapping me around telling me how much he hates
Yeah, no,
resurrections.
you walked into the Revolutions and you're like, I've come to terms. Like you're
Yeah,
like, honestly, like whatever
yeah,
you say, like you've seen it, but I'm reveling in it.
yeah. And you're like what I will say is if I don't like either of these I'll tell you by the end or before we
I said
record.
if I don't like both of
Both
these.
of them, sorry,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. Oh wait, we were recording. So I was actually waiting. I was like, "So are you gonna tell me?" But like you told me that you would tell me that before we recorded,
Yeah.
and I don't think you would have forgotten that, and you haven't told me it. So here we are. My
Yes.
realistic, I will say it right now. We are an hour and 20 in.
Fuck yeah.
I think you're gonna give one a two and a half and one a three. That's what I'm
Mm.
standing at. And if I were
Mm.
to be more of a decipher, three you're gonna give it two and a half, and four you're gonna give it three.
Okay.
So, however you want to go about this, you built up the suspense. My heart is racing, but maybe I'll turn around like I'm in the voice and I need to hear you sing.
I have two options. I can either say something
Oh
that will
no.
kind of give you my thoughts on both right off the bat, but not to the full extent, or I can go literally 3 to 4. Do you have a preference? Do you want?
I can I leave that up to you because it's also like you are the one that has made me wait, and I feel like choosing. I'm gonna hear it no matter what. You can go. Why don't you go on the journey? I guess it feels
Yeah,
a bit more befitting given how we've structured
yeah.
this already.
So what I will say is, I also participated in like trying to like take substances before 3 and 4. Did
Hmm.
not take nearly as much as you guys because I was driving after the movies.
Yes. Stay
Did
safe,
not
guys.
basically did not hit me. Like I like it hit me a little bit. Like I was definitely feeling it, like a residual of it. But the bite I took must have been so small because I did not feel it much at
You did take a
all.
small bite because I had your other half, and
Yeah,
that was like seventy
wasn't even
percent
a
of it.
half. Yeah. Um, so that's important to understand. Like I was pretty sober while watching both these movies,
Yeah,
just as I was sober watching one, whereas two, I can say like I was high.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that being said, continuation of two, watching it.
I'm covering my face.
Okay, I'll get my journey. Matrix Revolutions
Uh-huh.
is great. It is a great, great, great movie. There is no but.
Oh,
My
uh,
experience with it, the first 30 minutes, I did not like it.
yeah.
I did not like it. Like, truthfully, like I thought the writing wasn't working. What I will say about 3 is, and this will spoil my thoughts a little bit for 4. Easily Keanu Reeves' weakest performance. 3 is he's bad. Like 3, he is like towards the end where he's meant to show more emotion with the blindfold on. I start to bite a bit more. Everything before that, I'm not sure if it's because of how the Oracle's passing affected the making of the movie and how it
Uh-huh.
was edited and put together.
Uh-huh.
I think Keanu Reeves is really bad in Matrix Revolutions. Like to a point where like it was almost distracting at moments. I also think that the actress that was sent to replace the Oracle, obviously she's getting like an
Mm,
impossible task of
yeah.
following up that powerhouse of a performance. I don't
Yeah.
think she's nearly as memorable or as good.
I could agree with that.
The first 30 minutes were not working for me to a point where I was like, oh, like we're fucked. Like I'm like, I don't maybe Austin was right on the money. And I will say I forgot exactly inherently what point it was in the movie, but
Hmm.
I do think once the Battle of Zion starts to begin, like the movie starts to fully win me back over, and in the second half of Matrix Revolutions is what makes me so confident to make me be like, okay, like I love that movie. I do
Wow.
think the second half is so strong, and I was even thinking fleeting like during when the Battle of Zion first starts, I'm like, okay, like Unfortunately, The Matrix Revolutions has an uphill battle because sci-fi big battles like this don't really work that well for me
No.
in any movie.
Mhm.
I am so much more into like hand-to-hand combat or even like gunfighting or like sword play. Like that works so much better for me. Even like superhero fighting, like it done in like Reloaded, I am so much more tied to.
Mhm.
Sci-fi big battles have never done much for me
Mhm.
ever. Like Dune 2 to the other extents of like a fucking Warcraft, like these
Mhm.
big war set pieces always kind of fall flat for me. So I'm like, okay, unfortunately, I just don't think that this movie is going to be able to win me over.
Mhm.
And I will say it is probably the best sci-fi sequence I've ever seen in a movie thus
Mhm.
far.
Mhm.
I think it works extremely well. I think that like the effect work and just the pure imagery of it all. The one thing that you did say before we had watched three was I, at the very least, hope that you can recognize some of the most beautiful imagery seen in a blockbuster ever made.
Mhm.
And I will 100% say with you, there is some shots in this that are
Yes.
fucking phenomenal, like
Mhm.
beyond words. You know, a lot of it still doesn't like fully pan out for me. Like there is stuff like the fight sequence between him and like the serial killer where he gets blinded, which I don't think fully works for me. Like I just think like choreography wise, like it doesn't look the best.
Mhm.
I if this movie was shot canonically with 2, so, like, 2 was shot first and then 3,
Mhm.
that wouldn't shock me because I feel like the highway sequence low-key broke their brains of having to build an entire highway and spend 6
Yeah.
months on it.
Yeah.
Like, that
No.
would not shock me
Yeah.
because there is a sense of, like, a lack of, um, choreography uh,
Three.
in Matrix 3
Yeah.
that isn't present that w like it was in 2.
Mhm.
But what really makes the movie as strong as it is that last 30 minutes. I think it is probably the strongest 30 minutes in the entire series thus far. I think the fight scene with him and Smith is impeccable. Like, I think probably my favorite superhero fight scene I've ever seen in a movie ever. I think it's
Whoa.
done so well. I think
Whoa.
just the effect work,
Whoa.
the rain, this it's so grimy, and yes, you can tell it's CG, but it works so well because there's a pure imagination to the entire sequence the entire time. The
Mhm.
Battle of Zion is obviously very great, and there's many a great moment. Um, but you know, I truly did love that last 30 minutes so much, and the way he beat Smith
Mhm.
is just so utterly powerful to a point where it's like understated to a point of like, wait, I don't even fully understand. And then looking
Mhm.
into it, like, no, that is like a pure like brainiac level screenwriting.
Yeah.
And then just the ending with like the Smith's mouth exploding to white like explosions and
Mhm.
just the shocking of his body and the seeing above the clouds. Like there is immaculate imagery in this. Like him seeing the fiery Smith when he's blinded.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just there's some things in this movie that are brain breaking. Like it is a truly brain breaking experience. There's a lot with this movie that I wish I liked more of. Like I said, like I do think Keanu Reeves is not very good. I did not feel the emotion I wanted to feel from Trinity's
Mm.
death. I wish I
Mm.
felt more from it.
Mhm.
Um, there was moments like that. I also think that the movie is I don't want to proclaim their intention, but for me, it felt a bit too pro-military with how the
Hmm.
young character wraps up his storyline in it. Unfortunately, it feels a bit like we won the war, like the war is over, like we won, like me sacrificing my young life was for something, and in a weird way.
I will say, the only note that I will say is maybe like oddly enough because the Animatrix is like kind of a central viewing in the regard that like there is a lot of things that like pad out. Like there's a storyline of a runner that then runs so fast he like goes into the like out of the Matrix.
Yeah.
Um, but there's two storylines. The Flight of the Osiris, which is basically the ship that finds that the machines are drilling, and
Mm.
that's the message that they get that starts to. Um, but that kid has a whole like from the creator of Cowboy Bebop, like
Oh,
he
sick.
has like a short film about him breaking through into the Matrix, but he's
Mm.
one of the only people that does it like he kills himself to go to it. Like he falls off a building.
Oh, wow.
Um, but he's like I believe I like, and that's the whole thing where like in the beginning where they like talk and he's like, no, you did it yourself, and he's like, no, you
Yeah.
saved me, Neo. And I think like I feel like I don't disagree because like you haven't seen that, but I think like there is an added sort of weight to like him feeling the need to be that person
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because he feels a calling, like he wants to be a part of the Nebuchadnezzar, be a part of the crew. But like even in that short film, like he is the one person that does it truly all on his own.
Yeah.
Like no one gives him a call. Like basically he does it singularly.
Yeah.
So maybe like I get what you
No,
mean.
I understand that, and it does feel like because there was also instances as well where I'm like, okay, like maybe like this isn't like fully kind of like military propagandic because like obviously we know the Wachowskis are very critical of like the government agency and
Yeah.
surveillance and like
Hmm.
the police force. So I'm
Hmm.
like, okay, like maybe I'm just like seeing this a different way that I'm not supposed to be. Um, a question for you because we watched the theatrical cut obviously in theaters.
Yeah.
Um, there's a director's cut, correct? Oh,
No.
there isn't.
No, like
Okay.
that like people have kind of like cited even in complaints of 2 and 3 being like these films that are so like bad and there's like no like the Wachowskis like they've never had a director's cut with
Good.
anything.
Okay.
So every whatever you get
Is what, like,
is
their
yeah,
vision.
so
That is interesting to me too, because for some reason, like I said, maybe it's the actress of the Oracle's passing, all the way scenes are edited
mhm,
together, but, like, the editing also feels clunkier in 3, and that's why, like, I even said, like, I kinda wanna revisit Reloaded because I'm like, was I so high that I didn't notice that it's edited the same way as 3?
sure.
But for me, like, there were just sequences where I was like, "This is being edited weird, this is being cut weird," and
Mm,
I don't even wanna fully blame the performances because, like, just, like, the cut would be too quick or be
yeah.
too soon, and I'm like, "Okay, like, this feels like a janky conversation."
Mhm.
So there was a lot about 3 that doesn't work for me, but when it comes to like a pure visual immaculation
Mhm.
of what a blockbuster can be on a CG level and on a practical level, like it is gorgeous. Like these CG environments that they're building and like their imaginations when it comes to just
Mhm.
fleshing out these creatures and these dynamics. And one thing that the Wachowskis do so well with their action set pieces, it just keeps going.
Mhm.
That's what I've really started to appreciate about like an action set piece is like when it just adds more components that keep going and going that makes the stakes higher, but also elevates the like the dynamics
Yeah.
within the fight
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
And they're so good at that, and they're good at it when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, with weaponry, with guns,
Mhm.
but especially when it comes to like these huge action set piece or these huge sci-fi war where it's like more machines, different machines, how they act, how they operate, just the influx of they keep coming, they keep coming.
Yeah.
Like we have these mech characters that are shooting these plethora of bullets. Okay, they're doing pretty well, but they need to
Mm.
reload. So how are
Mhm.
we going to incorporate them
Mhm.
reloading, and then
Yeah.
having that come to the forefront and having that be somewhat of an issue because how are the people who are giving them their bullets going to be able to survive?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just small things like that. Like there keeps being layers added to it.
Mhm.
I like the little horror inclinations that are present throughout 3 to like the horror effects and just the
Mhm.
slasher. Like it kind of feels like Jason X at some points because of the
Sure,
sci-fi
sure.
environment.
Yeah.
Um, and I will what I will also say too is like I don't think Lawrence Fishburne's also very good in the 3rd one, which, like I said, like, I
Mm.
don't know if it's just, like I don't know what it is about what the making of the 3rd one was and
Mhm.
how much of the studio was involved or how much of, like, the death of, like, the Oracle's actress was involved with, like,
Mhm.
the way things were put together, but it feels like there's a lack of, like, passion in Fishburne and Reeves in some increments.
Mm.
In other increments, it's not present, like, there's that shot where he looks up and his eyes are
Yeah.
red, like,
Yeah.
that's truly
Yeah.
powerful. Like, he really like, he was locked in there. Same thing with Reeves, like, when he's blinded and, like, he's actually, like, mourning Trinity's loss, like, I can feel it, like,
Mhm.
that feels like a good performance, but there's other just smaller moments where, like, I'm like, "Are you even in this?" Like, that's why I was surprised where if you hadn't told me that they were filmed back to back and I just watched them on their own, I would be convinced, I'm like, "Oh, like, they made these years apart and something happened."
Fascinating.
Um,
Fascinating.
and that's what I'm saying, like, maybe it was just me being inebriated for 2 and there's, like, gonna be someone in the audience like, "Oh, no, like, 2 and 3 are the same like, feel the same, like, you were
No.
just fucked up."
No.
Um,
I trust me, I agree with you. I
yeah,
think it's to me there is a differential. There is like a certain there's like even a few like moments in the edit of like when there's like a bunch of the crew members on the Nebuchadnezzar that like it's cutting to like and there's like a shot that's there for like not even like a full second and I'm like,
yeah,
it feels a little odd, but like I think to me where the film sells and I think watching it for the first time, like it was so easy, like, oh, this is a 3.5 for me. But I've never looked back from the position where I stand, like, that is not two movies. That is like a to be continued. Like those are the same movie. They just
yeah,
unfortunately had to package it differently. And in that regard, like when I'm watching the moment that Neo, Trin, and Morpheus meet the Merovingian to when then Neo saves Trin, that like 30 minutes is so unbelievably long and so unbelievably versatile that it feels very intentional that is like the second act sequence, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah,
And
yes,
then from
yes.
like thereafter where then like Morpheus says like I've dreamed a dream but now the dream is gone for me, from that point to then when like they're knuckling up getting ready for the fight on Zion, like I consider that then the ascension back to the even bigger drop in the roller coaster.
Yeah,
Now, I don't disagree with you, and I have made the comparison that like Dead Man's Chest has like the wheelbarrow sequence that is all sprawling. Like, yeah, I do think the highway chase is like my favorite in the trilogy for sure in the
yeah.
franchise. But I do think that like there is a variety and a tactility and like there is imagery, like it is true imagery in the third one that like I think about like constantly. Like
Yeah.
the shot of the machines swarming as the kid is like holding on to the back of
Yeah, it's
Mafuni.
crazy.
It's like
It's getting stabbed a
unbelievable shit.
million
Or
times.
like
Yeah.
there's like the image where it's like there's like yellow and then like a harsh white that is showing the swarm taking over and they're shooting, but it's like curved in a way where you can see everything geographically. Like
Yeah.
they are so good at image making, and I think like above any film they've ever made, like the Christ imagery is like on the fullest display
Yeah, when
possible.
he, like, explodes into a million bits, it's like there's literally a cross that
Yeah,
appears, like, for surely, and, like, there are things I can, like, nitpicks I can throw at it, like, I do think, like, this is so unfortunate to say, but, like, one of the worst child performances I've ever seen in a movie ever,
yeah,
and it's so funny because like, they know how to direct children, like Speed Racer, like, the child acting is pretty good,
yeah.
so I don't know what happened, but
Hmm.
all that to say, like, I can throw nitpicks, like, here and there, I
Which are very earned for sure.
but at the same time, it's like, dude, like, I do think that that last half is so much legwork, like, even from, like, the Jada Pinkett Smith stuff, like, she's really good in the movie.
Hmm.
She's really good in, like, that whole chase sequence, like, the way it adds weight to the ship
Hmm.
and the way the
Hmm.
mechanics of the ship are, like, it feels good. It feels like an actual good
Yeah,
chase sequence, like, and
yeah.
that's, like, surprising because for most instances, that stuff doesn't work for me. So when it
Hmm.
does work for me, I'm like, "No, like, there's a clear talent here." Because like I said at first, like, when the battle was first beginning, I'm like, "They're fucked." Like, unfortunately, Wachowskis have the impossible task of making me look past my
Yeah,
very
the grievances.
my grievances, and then I was like, "No, like, they're actually doing, like, this is really cool. Like, this
Hmm.
is genuinely really effective stuff." And then, I mean, I said it before, but, like, that last fight scene with Smith is just it's yes, it is, like, the epitome of taking 2 action figures and smashing them
No, literally,
together.
with bigger rain bubbles that
But
are
I'm
exploding.
so sorry, every time there's a rain bubble, it works. Like,
Yeah.
it's impossible for me to be like, "No," like, because it looks visually interesting, and it
Yeah.
looks visually cool, like, yes, it is dumb, it is a big stupid thing, but, oh my god, it just looks and feels so good, and that's, like, when they're both so twizzed up and locked in with their
Yeah.
performances and just
Yeah.
having all of, the other Agent Smiths just along the buildings
Mhm.
watching the battle,
Mhm.
it is, yes, stupid, but it's stupid in the most beautiful of ways. Like,
Mhm.
I truly do admire what's going on with this movie in terms of a visual landscape, and I don't think it is nearly as good as 2.
Sure.
However, I do think, like, the ending of having them both die in the way, like, he really does become, like, the clear
Mhm.
consensus of Jesus Christ, like, dying for the sins, but having to be reawakened by the people, like,
Mhm.
that is a clear indication of, like, they had both in mind, and now I have no doubts about it that, like, when they made 1, they had 2 and 3, like,
Yeah.
it was always
Yeah.
meant to be a trilogy. I will say 2 out of all 3 has my favorite ending, but you cannot put
Sure.
past the idea of someone beating someone's heart, like, that is
Mhm.
that might be, like, one of the craziest things I've ever seen in a movie ever,
Uh,
like, that, like, like, that changed everything for me.
and I'm glad. Again, I do think that like, and I told Austin this 3 and 4 have my like, because he had asked me like a while ago, and like we've talked about this, like an image that like makes a filmmaker,
Yeah,
and I think like one of the images is that very final shot of the sunrise, and it's like
yeah,
I think like even like arguably even more so now, like the concept of building a major blockbuster trilogy and the final shot be a black and brown girl and woman
yeah,
overlooking the sunrise,
yeah,
like that to me is like such a palpably engrossing image and everything that that journey from beginning to end leads to.
yeah,
And like again, I'm not even like And you are right to like the pro-military. They've been very outwardly against like the militaristic powers, but like Sense8 has a very blatant use of propaganda
You
that
told
is
me about that.
never fucking like addressed.
Interesting.
Like one of the lead characters is a cop, but like there is never really any like they try to like glance over like police oversight and like the manipulation of it, but they never are making any commentary. So you like they are, as much as I love them, they can be a little bit tone deaf at times, which is so frustrating because they're so dialed in to an umpteenth degree in alternatives.
Mhm.
Um, God, okay. Because look, what's odd too, and I hope you understand this. I felt like you were going to like three less than four, but I am so fucking terrified for how you think of four. Because even to a point, like I gave the prompted question, and I don't know if you want to kind of talk about your thoughts first about four for me to phrase to you the question that I posed.
Mhm.
I think I'll just say it, and whether or not you want to like address it
Yeah.
now or later. Um, I basically was saying like I asked you the question, do you think if Matrix 4, given that it was a train moving by Warner Brothers, and Lana said no, as
Yeah.
well as Lily, and someone else overtook the project, did whatever they did with it, would it have made you appreciate, whether it was good or bad, the trilogy being the trilogy? Or does the fact that Lana made 4, given the context you know of what I've
Yeah.
told you, and given the movie itself, does it make you appreciate the whole package now more? Now you can answer that now, you can answer that later. Just
Yeah.
make sure I'm gonna close my eyes because again, to reaffirm here, Austin hated this fucking movie.
Yeah, like what at first was like I don't like it, but like I can understand it, and then like was going to a place where it was
He was
like
so mean, dude. I was
this
so
is like
high.
the slog, like this is like the worst type of slog, like this is like the worst shit
To
ever.
a point which we will expound upon. Sorry, Austin, you're going to be the punching bag because you used me yesterday as the punching bag. He made a point to say that like a plot detail is there as like an excuse, if that makes sense, to
Yeah,
excuse like the shittiness. But I can't really say that yet.
no.
Um, which is like the craziest thing I've ever heard. But Austin's not here right now.
Austin is not here right now.
Talk
M-
to me, man.
Matrix
Oh no,
Resurrections.
and he's I actually am gonna turn around for this. I'm gonna look at the sunlight as you put the barrel of the gun behind my head. And
My
it's okay. I understand.
if we're barring Jupiter Ascending, my least favorite Wachowski film is Cloud Atlas.
Why would you say that, bro? Why would you say
I like
that?
Matrix Resurrections. I do. That's the period. I like Matrix Resurrections. Do I think it's amazing? No. Do I think it's terrible? No. Do I think it's bad? No. Do I think it's great? No. I think it is good. I like it. I there is so much, but is by far, which is so fun to say because we just talked about how messy three is. It is by far the highest and the lowest of the series
Hmm.
in spades. Like to a point where it's like,
Whoa.
what? Because I told
Whoa.
you after we watched it, I was like, I was pretty certain how I felt about it.
Uh-huh.
Before, I literally didn't know. I was like, mid movie, I was like, did that work for me or did that not work for me? Like it was, and it was every single thing. It was like I literally could not tell you what was working for me, what wasn't. I was
Oh
like,
no.
what is going on? And so I needed to watch the whole thing. I need to think on it. And I can confidently say I like that movie a lot. Like I do truly think that there is a true necessity for it to exist. So to answer your question,
Oh.
Matrix 4 needs to exist. Matrix 4 needs to exist because I think there is a such an important context to establish with not just 4,
Oh
but the
wow.
entire trilogy. If Lana was not attached to Matrix 4, I think the series nosedives completely. Not in terms of the
Whoa.
technical quality of the movie, but I think of what the movies stand for. I think Lana needs to be attached, and the movie needs to be how it is
Uh-huh.
for the series to make sense for you and as a whole.
Ye-
I think
Okay.
I think that like her inclusion is crucial to the series. I think that to a point where even last night I said like the fact that Drew Goddard is making the fifth one is the funniest shit ever.
You did make a comment on
Yeah,
that, and that could have swung both
yeah.
ways.
Like I do think like these are tied to the Wachowskis. Like these are the sisters. Like they belong, and they're the sisters, and they're also like the families. Like the Lily and Lana like experience such a like a different level of grief that I can't even understand.
Yeah.
To a point where yes, like you can see like Neo and Trinity as their parents. I kind of see it as just the sisters. Like I see it as love for each other. Like there is
Mm.
watching
Mm.
this and seeing it as like Neo is this person who doesn't have their other half.
Mhm.
And Lana's tasked with making the fourth Matrix movie without her other half.
Mm.
Like that is like that was what shined through most of me. Like yes, like there was a definitely an element of grief
Mhm.
and the afterlife and the beyond and what we're here on our place to do and who completes us and who's actually the one.
Yeah.
But it almost feels like Lana being like, I'm not the one, like my sister is the one, like my other
Mhm.
half is the one. Like
Mhm.
I don't know, like there is a true potency to a lot of the final act that really worked for me. And even the first half, like and I was even thinking like this might be the first Matrix movie where the first half for me is stronger than the second half. And there are parts of the
Mm.
second half that I love, but the first half was, funny enough, actually working for me pretty well. Like the stuff where it's talking about like being very self-referential as to what the Matrix is, and then being like, oh, it's a trans allegory and what like
Mhm.
that was working with me because I understood that Lana was telling the audience like this movie was going to be made
Mhm.
without me or with me, without the
Mhm.
script or anything. Like the fourth Matrix is going to
Yeah.
exist.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it in my way. And I thought that was so admirable. I thought it
Mhm.
was so self-referential, especially because the movie doesn't just stay in this mess of okay, like I'm gonna acknowledge the other movies exist and it's gonna be this self-referential like circle jerk the entire time.
Yeah.
Like it moves past that into the second half. Like it acknowledges like yes, the other Matrix movies exist, and we're saying that for a very clear inclination of my personal journey with the series, but also as a
Mhm.
filmmaker. Like I don't know, like I think that this is also the other one as well with three. Like I can fully understand how this movie is hated by someone. Like I can understand how Austin hates it,
Mhm.
but I cannot understand someone who thinks that this movie would be better off without Lana's inclusion. I think
Mhm.
this movie needs to be written by Lana, and think it needs to be directed by Lana. Because if
Mhm.
not, I think this movie does not work as a fourth movie to the Matrix trilogy. I use the word personal for a very specific reason. There is a huge emphasis on the word personal for Matrix 4. It is the most personal by a landslide.
Mhm.
And that is evident by the context of the movie beforehand. It
Mhm.
is evident by the actual way the movie wraps up. This is a clear inclination of the most personal an auteur can get to projecting themselves onto a blockbuster. Like,
Mhm.
and the fact that you can compare this to No Way Home, which came out at the same time as it, No Way
Yeah.
Home is removed from being personal. That is
Yeah.
a factory movie.
Mhm.
This is how can I bleed my whole body and my whole family's body and my whole experience as a woman, as a trans woman,
Mhm.
as a filmmaker in the cog in the machine, as
Mhm.
a person who has made corporate IP, how can I bleed that onto a blockbuster?
Yeah.
And she achieves it. This is a Lana Wachowski movie,
Mhm.
and it is not a Lily Wachowski movie. And Lana is grappling with the fact that I do not have Lily here with me. Like
Mhm.
that's the part that hurts most about this is I don't have my
Mhm.
other half,
Mhm.
and that is saddening. It is sickening. It is the movie's existence itself is a miracle because like having to get approved to make a series that you start, like having to get approval to make it, as well as having your parents die right before it and your other half
Yeah.
not be there to make it with you. It is harrowing. Like this movie is a travesty, but also a miracle, and it is a clear sign of this is going to happen without you. So, do you want to be along for the ride, or do you want to watch it burn and
Yeah.
rubble? And she, knowing that it was not going to be what the first three were going to be, she said, "I want to be a part of it as it dies." Like
Mhm.
that's literally how it feels. It's like I know this is going down. I'm going to die with it,
Mhm.
and that is so that might be the most powerful thing I've ever seen a filmmaker do in a movie ever. And
Mhm.
that's such a funny thing because Austin was like basically like beating Lana
Yeah.
and being like
Yeah.
you're kind of a hack. Like that's kind of what
Yeah.
like Austin was saying, like you're a hack for making this, which is the exact opposite. I'm like, Lana needed to be attached to this or else this dies in the most disgusting of ways.
Yeah.
At least the way like she's going down with the ship that she created. And that
Mhm.
is so beautiful. I'm singing the praises now because like I do think emotionally and contextually, like this is my favorite in the series by far.
Mhm.
I think emotionality, like this is the most emotional one to me. It hits the hardest. It's the most powerful in that sense.
Mhm.
Um, the reason I think it's my least favorite of the four is just from a stance of as a movie, I
Mhm.
don't think I'll ever watch it again. I
Mhm.
think it's easily like, but like to a point where like Austin made the reference, and I honestly don't even disagree with him. I think Lily is the action director. I think Lily has the action chops because the fact that this is a Matrix movie in the action sense feels so far removed. Like not a single action sequence in Matrix 4 feels even to the same caliber as the original trilogy.
Mhm.
But I think the reason that doesn't hurt it for me as much as it does for Austin is because I buy into so much of the emotionality and I believe fully that like Lana is dying with this,
Mhm.
and that feels so powerful. Like it
Mm.
feels, and there is. Don't get me wrong. Like on an imagery standpoint, like the movie does look good. Like I agree with you and Austin. Like it looks good, and even like not even a sense where like it looks good as a whole, but like the imagery of them being put back together is fucking crazy looking. There is that sequence where Neil Patrick Harris is walking around and like it's slow motion but also fast
Mhm.
motion. The like the more choppy slow motion stuff works for me well as well. Like
Mhm.
I do think there is great visual there, which makes me affirm that like Lana wasn't just shooting this and like there was a clear
Yeah.
intent.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of performances, it's Keanu's best performance in the four easily. He is. I don't know if it was the John Wick movies that he needed, or he's needed more years of experience to level up as an actor. Because I don't think he's bad in the first one or in the second one. Like I
Mhm.
said, I do think he's very bad in the third one. But the
Mhm.
fourth one, like he feel like he's giving a good performance. Like, I
Mhm.
like him a lot in it.
Carrie Ann Moss.
Carrie-Anne Moss is also great in it. I like Jonathan Groff.
Thank you.
I like
Thank
when
you. Thank
Austin said
you.
he's terrible, I was like, that's crazy. I actually like him a lot. Granted, I do think his like character is written a bit annoying because that's just how he has to be written.
Yeah.
But I do actually like Jonathan Groff in the movie.
Yeah.
Um, I do not like Neil Patrick Harris though. I'm the exact opposite. I think the way he's written or the
Yeah.
his little like snarky like like
Mhm.
I annoys me so much. And I usually love Neil Patrick Harris, and I do think with what he was given, he is doing what was required of him. I
Yeah.
just maybe think the character was written a bit annoyingly.
Mhm.
However, like I'm not a huge fan of him. Really fucked with I can't pronounce his name. Um,
Yahya Abdul-Mateen.
fucked with him heavy, heavy.
Sorry, Austin, I love you, and it's because like this is like the only like reference we have. Does not like him either.
That's so funny. I think he's way better than Lawrence Fishburne. I'm not even joking. Like, I think he is super. Like, Lawrence Fishburne in the first one does what he needs to be doing. The sequels, he starts to falter off a little bit. Abdul Mateen like
Yeah.
kills it.
Yeah.
Like fully. Like, yes, he's not doing the same thing as a Morpheus. Like, he's a bit more
Mhm.
eccentric and enigmatic and whatnot. But
Mhm.
fully works for me. Like every performance works for me really well. Like I do think that like Jada Pinkett Smith is really funny in the fourth one because like she has so much effect work
Yeah.
on her and
Yeah.
whatnot, and she seems so old and decrepit. And I'm like, I
Mhm.
know you're not that old and decrepit in real life. However, like I do really, really fuck with every performance in this movie. Like there are some times where I'm like, like whatever. But for the most part, like really am down to. I'm digging what the performances are giving me, which is really cool to see because
Mhm.
the whole joke with like the Matrix sequels is that the performances usually aren't pretty good,
No. Yeah.
which I would disagree with in spades. But that being said, like I really liked Resurrections. Granted, like I said, I don't think I'll ever have the need to rewatch it again unless like there is a clear intent with it.
Mhm.
Because I do think like as a movie watching experience, there is a lot that I'm like, okay, like this isn't doing it for me. As an
Mhm.
action movie, I think it fails. I don't
Mhm.
think it's a good action movie. There are other like points where I'm like a bit annoyed by how it's written. Also, like as much as there's cool sci-fi concepts being put into play because the movie has come out with so much sci-fi in between the original trilogy and the new
Mm.
Matrix,
Mhm.
I do think that it's not as inventive and as cool as the trilogy was. And
Mhm.
so these new sci-fi things that they're added, I'm like, I've seen this before. And it's not like because
Sure.
I've seen it because it's influenced off the Matrix, but it's like this whole loop now where like you are now influenced based off the things that have been influenced based off your trilogy.
Yeah.
So a lot of the sci-fi isn't as like groundbreaking as it once was. There's like that's like once they're explaining the plan of how to get Trinity out, I'm kind of like, okay, this isn't really working for me. Like,
Really.
yeah, like um, there is stuff like that. However, like I said, like just great imagery here and far between. It's a really divided one for me because there are things that just do not work. Like with Matrix 3, like it's a bit like, okay, like this is bad, this is phenomenal. This one's like, I really admire your intent and the emotion you're putting behind it, and I really am fucking with what you're doing on an emotional level and what this movie means for you personally.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of it where I'm just like, Neo having like the telekinetic powers
Mhm.
like is like just kind of lazy to me. I think it's
Mhm.
done like in a kind of a lazy way. Like even the sense of like I like the aspect of like people jumping off roofs, but even
Yeah.
then like that only goes so far for me.
Mm.
Um but yeah, like I think the ending of them kissing with like the sunlight is so gorgeous.
Yeah.
There is the most powerful moment in the series for me is when she's the one flying and he's
That's
holding
the other
on.
image for me. Yeah.
It's like it that kills me. I'm like, oh, like that's genuinely like phenomenal stuff. Like that hurts my soul. I do love how campy the ending is with them flying into the sky together. Like
Yeah.
there is genuine like amazement to this movie and what it's saying and the ode that it serves to her sister and to her deceased parents.
Yeah.
Um it is my least favorite in the trilogy, but it was so funny being between you and Austin. That's like Austin being like, "This is the worst shit ever." You being like, "This is the best shit ever," and I'm
Yeah.
just like, "No, like." I'm kind of there both with you, but I just think it's good. Like I just like
Yeah.
I think it's like I was gonna say it, but I held my tongue. I was like, it's so funny that like I feel like I'm in the middle of you two right now, like literally.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to say it because I didn't want to give away my thoughts, but like I do think that there's a lot to really respect about Matrix Resurrections, and I'm so glad it exists how it exists because
Mhm.
if it existed any other way, we would have been so fucked. Um,
Sure.
because you cannot have the same movie as you do with the original trilogy
No.
exist.
No.
It's not possible anymore. The landscape has changed dramatically, and the reason the trilogy is how it is because there was an initial intent by the sisters to make them how
Mhm.
they are. They
Mhm.
weren't going to make a fourth Matrix. It was going to be made without them. How are they going to stay on the ship? And Lily said, I can't do it. It's too soon. And Lana
Mhm.
said, okay, I'm going to do it, but I'm going to make this about something. And she
Yeah.
made it about something. And in an age where remakes and sequels like, are not about anything at all, and like when they are about something, it's about the fact that they're a remake.
Mhm.
Is like no, like we're going to acknowledge this is a remake. We're going to acknowledge how this is out of my power,
Mhm.
but then I'm going to turn it into this isn't another Matrix trilogy movie. This is a Matrix Resurrections movie, and I'm
Yeah.
going to do it in a very specific way. And what I will say is like it does have its own identity as well. It doesn't feel like a Matrix movie for better and for worse sometimes,
Mhm.
and I really respect it for that reason. But I don't. It's so funny to me because I can fully understand how someone's like, "This is like just schlop,"
Mhm.
but I do think like this is the most important movie where like context matters because it bleeds through the screen. Like there is,
Mhm.
you can watch this and be like, is there something that I'm missing? And you are missing so much if you
Yeah.
don't know the context behind it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, long version is saying I really admire Matrix 4 and I stand by it. Like I prefer all four to
Mhm.
Cloud Atlas. So
Wow.
yeah.
Wha I mean, that is like a punch in a different way, but like one that I'll take over and over again. Yeah, man, that's crazy. Sorry, I think we could just end the episode here because like I truthfully thought this was gonna go in a very, very different conversation, and it would have been like really, really depressing because it's just like trying to coddle a baby as I'm sobbing. Like I don't I it's hard to really kind of finitely say how I feel about a movie that I think is just like I think I've seen Resurrections the most I've seen any Matrix film.
Even the first?
Yeah, because like, and it's actually one of the first few films where I watched it on Max, and then the day after I watched it immediately again. And it's a movie that I think like we have said over the course of like 15 minutes, like the context is crucial, and I've never looked at it as like it is Lana wishing that she could have her sister with her. And it's just like I think like that to me like every time I when I made Next Stop, like that is the one thing that like I can't we haven't really talked about, which is like you haven't seen this movie, so it's like when I made Next Stop, like a big thing of like, am I gonna release this? I was just thinking about like Warner Brothers approached Lana towards the very end of 2019, and their parents like died in October, 5 weeks apart from one another,
Yeah.
and like their dad died first and their mom died last, and like to me, I just like watching this movie, and then the pandemic happens, and like she still chooses to do it. Not to say that that is saying that Lily couldn't for an inferior reason. Like I would never be able to do that. And I think so much of this film is like about like relinquishing your past and in favor of embracing your future. And like in so many ways, like Neil Patrick Harris is like the Warner Brothers of it all. They're like, how do we find a way to bring you two back? And Lana is saying like how am I going to best get on this moving train? And I'm going to do it by making my parents be infinite,
Yeah.
making them be everlasting. And like to me, like I think it is the most important blockbuster that we will get in our time. I think it is like I made the comment when we're stoned out of our mind, like this is my Furiosa. Like it is not on a technical level sometimes like the greatest thing, but it is also the greatest thing ever for me because like there's CGI in Furiosa that I'm like, huh. There's CGI in this, I'm like, huh. But like that is pure emotional, guttural filmmaking for both of us in different ways.
Yeah.
And I really had no idea where you're gonna swing because like I think, you don't have Don Davis on the score, you don't have Bill Pope shooting the film.
Nope. Nope.
I think, but I love the score in this movie. Like it has this such a beautiful build and escalation to so many moments. I love the new characters like Bugs. Like I think like again, there is no film that is going to reach to the screen and say, "Hi, this is me." Like when Bugs is talking to Neo about like you did this and they took it away from you and made it something else, you know? And
Yeah.
it like, but it mattered so much to people like me. Like, are we like fucking serious for a second? And like, I don't understand the sentiments. Like, it,
I think the scene where she's like, it for me it's Trinity. Like for me, like Trinity
mm,
is like my one
yeah,
basically, and
yeah,
I'm like, no, like that's beautiful. Like that is like true like reflection as an artist and like the way your art has gone and the way it's basically
mm-hmm,
preceded you and the way it's expanded upon you. Like
mm-hmm,
it is a film that acknowledges the importance of the Matrix, but also acknowledges that like it's not that anymore.
no,
Like Lana and Lily aren't filmmakers that they were when like literally like they are a new gender now. Like they
yeah,
are a new identity. They are more in
yeah,
tune with themselves than they were when they
yeah,
made the Matrix movies. Like that is
yeah,
a clear, evident fact. And so it's kind of like they're not the same, you
yeah,
know, and that's okay. Like it is okay not to be the same.
mm-hmm,
I think like this movie is so like not dependent, but like I think if your enjoyment of it is so dependent on legitimately if you can watch a Matrix movie and invest yourself in new characters.
yeah,
I think if like new characters in your Matrix movie is like fucking water and cereal, like you're not gonna fuck with it,
no,
obviously.
literally,
Um, and you know, it does do things where I'm like, okay, like, is this studio or is this Lana? And that is sucky because it for the first trilogy, like it does kind of feel like this is like the Wachowskis like bubbling out, but
mm-hmm,
fully. Well, you know, there's like the flashback stuff that like there is times where it's used very beautifully. And you know me, like I'm not a huge fan of flashing
no,
back to
sure,
previous
sure,
stuff. Um, there is stuff where like visually like so cool to have them stand in front of like the movie at the like the old abandoned theater
yeah,
screen.
yeah,
At the same time though, I'm like this is kind of annoyingly done. But at the same time, it's like, man, like I think, like, you have a version of this without Lana involved that's like,
it's
literally
the
the
worst,
worst thing ever made.
yeah,
I think the fact that, like, Lana's not just being like, "Hey, like, remember how I made those movies?" It's more so like, "Hey, like, I made those movies and they mean a very different thing to me now,
yeah,
and this is, like, where it's go." Like, I don't know, it feels like she's actually tackling and debating and actually fighting with her past self and her past work
mm-hmm,
and reveling of why am I here? Why am I making the fourth one?
mm-hmm,
And it all comes down to for the characters, for Neo, for
yeah,
Trinity, and like I don't know, it's a beautiful film, and I can Austin's funny too because like I kind of in agreement with him where I'm like, really like, can I see this being your favorite? But at the same time, like knowing who you are and how like powerful it means to commit yourself to something and how powerful it is to you
mm-hmm,
personally to just fully like give the best part of yourself in the worst situation.
mm-hmm,
I can see how 4 can be your favorite. Granted, do I think that like 2 is better than 4 in basically every facet? Yes. However, 2 does not contain what 4
mm-hmm,
means. And that
mm-hmm,
is at the end of the day what these films are about is what these films mean. And
yeah,
4 this sounds stupid when you say it out loud, but like in my brain it makes sense. 4 means the most.
yeah. No,
What
I mean, trust
yeah.
me, like you did no confusion there. I just, I think people like look at, and I've had several people like Christian has looked at me and like been like, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
Mm,
When I'm like, that moment with Neo and Trin as the music is swelling and they're trying to hold hands with one another, it's like to me like like nothing gets as powerful as that. Like that to me is like the moment in their entire filmography that I think actually like absorbs me the most. And I understand why people aren't like, I will say watching 1 through 3, I'm like, you know what? I could see a world where people think Keanu Reeves sucks as an actor.
yeah.
I think he's fantastic in this movie. Like I think like the age might have made him just more sweet and endearing, and maybe him just being older inherently is
He's
made
also
me,
given a bit more to do,
yeah. And like
to portray.
Carrie and Moss is, there's moments in this that I'm just like and they're, what's fascinating is they maybe have like a subtotal of like 10 minutes of screen time together, like together.
And they're good together. Like that's like the one thing I will give to is like this is probably the best their chemistry's been, which is like
Mm,
is that an age thing or like I don't know. Like Keanu Reeves is fascinating because he does oftentimes like with Neo and with like John like play like the straight man. Like he plays the character that's like his his reputation precedes him and he's a
yeah,
quiet dude and
yeah,
like you have to believe what has been heard about him
hmm,
because of he's like that badass motherfucker, whatever. Um and that can hurt sometimes. Like in the third one, like I think it hurts a lot. In the fourth one, though, like he's able to be a bit more eccentric. There's like that part where he's like waving his hands, like, nope, nope, I'm not
yeah,
doing it, nope.
yeah,
And I'm like,
yeah,
okay, like you're having fun. Like And that's what I will acknowledge too, is I was like, okay, like, is Keanu Reeves gonna be hamming this up because like this is the fourth Matrix movie, like he's gotten older.
Mhm.
But no, like he went bald. He shaved his eyebrows off. Like
Mhm.
he was down to get down
Mhm.
and dirty. Like he was like he died by the cross, and that's
Mhm.
awesome to see. Yeah, no, I can understand hating Matrix Resurrections. I can understand hating Matrix Revolutions.
Mhm.
However, I do think that Revolutions holds some of the best imagery, and for just it it's so important. Like it's
Mhm.
and to a point where like, man, like obviously the whole if they were gonna make Matrix 4 without the Wachowskis, they're gonna make Matrix 5 without the
Yeah.
Wachowskis. But like, dude, like that feels so gutting to have maybe the most personal blockbuster ever made put to screen right before maybe there's a complete absence of what makes those movies
Yeah.
the Matrix, and
Yeah.
that's the Wachowskis.
It again, I just I don't see a world where like these films do not collide with me and like change everything, and I'm very appreciative. I could be totally off base. Like the first one's a four, second one's a 4.5, third one's a 3.5, and the fourth one's a three.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah,
Mm,
and I hit it on the head. And it's funny because, but I would give all four hearts.
yeah,
I would give all four a heart. Like
yeah.
I think that like they all, funny enough, are very like the one is the trendsetter. That is like the pivotal movie.
Mhm.
That is like the most one
Mhm.
of the most important movies.
Yeah.
The second is like maybe the coolest action movie ever made. The third is like maybe the perfect resolve of a climax and a like an orchestration to a finale there can
Mm,
be. And then the fourth one is like maybe like the most important like most important major studio release in recent memory.
wow. Wow. Yeah, so that's so interesting then. So like when you ever get a feeling to rewatch, would you just rewatch two and that's it, or would you watch two and three and then
Honestly, I might just watch two. Like, if you're like, I'm in the mood for Matrix, I was like, I'll stick around for two. Like, I don't know. It's funny because, like I said, I can say that I loved all four for a very vastly different reasons.
Mhm.
But two's the one where I'm like, that's like, I put that in my top 100. Like, two,
Yeah.
did like, I the way I said it to you was the way I'll say it again. Before watching these movies, I was kind of like always curious as to why the Wachowskis do so much for you.
Mhm.
And obviously, I love Speed Racer. Like Speed Racer is also my top 100.
Mhm.
But I was like, why is Wachowskis like? Why are they what they are to you?
Mhm.
Two was the clearest sign of like, oh, I get it now. Like I was
Mm.
Danny DeVito
Good.
seeing the light.
Yeah.
Like two is like that's the movie. And it's so funny because I was reading reviews for two, and people are like, like when it's an action movie, it's one of the best ever. Or like the people like really do think that the action overshadows everything in between, but just I think the movie as a whole is just
Yeah.
that's the movie. Like that's like the full Matrix Reloaded
Mhm.
experience. Yeah, and although like Austin the Gooner himself is like Monica Bellucci kiss, like there are scenes in Matrix Reloaded where I'm like, that's not a fight scene, but that's like the most powerful shit ever.
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad you basically are echoing a sentiment that I just like would just copy and paste for Resurrections, and I'm glad
yeah,
like we can have like two distinct ones. Like the reality where you're saying that about three is like the
so
craziest shit
funny.
ever,
Yeah,
but like you admiring its necessity of being a trilogy capper, like,
yeah.
and it's sad because like my biggest like throat swallow of like, oh no, was Austin like laughing at the end of three. And I'm like, oh no. And I didn't
Yes.
know because I was like, I was so high that I didn't know if you were laughing too. And I was like, well, fuck.
Well, I did laugh, but it was only because that character in his glasses. What is the actor's name?
Oh, I have no, the Seraph, right? You're
Yeah,
talking about the
Sheriff.
Seraph?
When he's walking the little girl out of nowhere, he just comes out of nowhere and he's having the glasses on. I was like, that's actually kind of funny. But it wasn't like because of the movie. It was just like me giggling.
Yeah.
No, and then that character named Kush in number four, so awesome, dude, so crazy.
Yeah, it just like, again, only a filmmaker could ever make a film like that and have a character named Zabebe.
Going back to the beginning of the episode, Transformers 3. That's probably your favorite in the series. Dark Side of the Moon.
If we're applying like we neuter it, like so it stays at 1 to 3. I don't know why 4 and 5 would exist, but it's like that isn't a trilogy.
Yeah.
Trilogy, yeah, for sure. Very good point. I
That'll
mean,
be a next trilogy because
no, no
no,
shot.
you don't think so?
Okay, there is a level of circumstance that has to be hit at because in order to do that, that would therefore mean we wouldn't be watching like Bad Boys 2, Pain and Gain.
Like the Michael Bay episode. Yeah, we'll see. Depending on what's going on through the Skibidi Toilet movie, we will see. Have to.
I have honestly I have no idea because like after this we're gonna be doing a big Spider-Man episode.
Oh, for sure.
It may be to an extent where I could honestly low-key see us making like a Spider-Man 3 episode
I,
because like it's so unfair to be like, oh, Raimi's films, Webb's films, Holland's films, and then no wait, no,
legitimately, not even to become like the escape pod for a second, but I can see us making three separate episodes on the Spider-Man movies.
shit, I wouldn't even.
The Raimi, the fucking, maybe we can combine like the web and maybe like the Spider Verse,
Mm.
so that way because I feel like there's not too much to talk about with
Yeah,
with the web, and
yeah.
then the third one being all four the
Mhm.
Watts ones, and then the new one obviously. Um,
Wow.
because I do think that those movies are they go through such fluctuation that'd be unfair to talk about all of those or like as a whole
Yeah.
because there's a reality where we don't talk about like four of the eight movies for the entire episode.
And unfortunately, like those four are sort of crucial to Brand New Day. Not even to be
Exactly.
like, oh, the MCUification of it all, but like John Watts for worse and for worse is a part of the tapestry, you
Yes,
know?
very much so.
I'm very excited. You know, Evil Dead Burn is coming out and that like means that like we're gonna have to watch like a couple of them at least.
We'll watch the Raimi movies. Yeah, we have a lot of really cool franchises to watch out, but this is probably like the last one from both of us where it's like this franchise already meant so much to us before we even started this
Yeah.
podcast. Now everything we go into will either be like basically like new waters.
Dude, we're literally 9 seconds away from hitting the runtime of the third Matrix movie, dude.
Fuck
That's
yeah.
fucking
I feel
crazy.
like Jada Pinkett Smith right now.
That's
I feel
the and the fourth
good.
of the oh,
Both and both.
I'm just grateful we went along the ride together,
I'm so
man.
grateful you brought along with me. And what I will give you is that like obviously like people can look at your favorites and look at your opinions and be like you are a contrarian and in
Hmm.
a lot of senses you are, but I don't think you ever do it for the sake of just being a contrarian. Like there is a very clear through line with what you love and why you love it,
Hmm.
and there were certain points where like where I'm like, okay, like Liz is only saying that their favorite Matrix is the fourth one because it's the least liked, or Matrix, or Liz is only saying that their favorite superhero movie is Batman v Superman because it's disliked and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I like when I first met you, like I was like, okay, like their whole shtick is like defending the worst shit ever.
Hmm.
Now that we've been so close for so long, and like I've seen so much of like the powerfulness like in the art that you love,
Yeah.
I can very much see like I understand and I completely get why these movies are so impactful to you and why these through lines exist for you.
Hmm.
So at the very end of the day, like I think the Matrix watch affirmed to me that like you you are a singular movie going person
Yeah.
and the best ways and sometimes the worst ways, but
Hmm.
I do think like no one watches movies like you do, just like as no one watches movies like I do,
Hmm.
and you believe the things you say and like with your whole heart and your whole chest, and
Sure.
that's
Sure.
exemplified with Matrix 4 being your favorite and how that movie sometimes says the dumbest shit ever, but it feels with its whole heart and its whole
Yeah.
chest.
Without a shadow of a doubt in my mind. I'm realizing too, like we're kind of stacked for this month. Like, because we dropped this episode the third,
Yeah.
and then we have Evil Dead
Uzi Bunny.
the next weekend, but then the weekend after that is the Odyssey, dude. Like,
Fuck the Odyssey, bro.
sorry,
But you're
yes,
watching that without me.
no,
Yeah, you are.
yeah, I know, but I don't think I am. After what he said to me, no,
It's done.
no,
Austin's blocked. Austin, if you're hearing this, fuck you.
yeah, man, fuck you, dude. That at least whatever, dude. But
I'll give the excuse of you being off like 20 mg and being like
yeah, but do that shit
shocked.
again, you're done. You're fucking done. But thank you, Austin. Thank you, Sophia. Thank you. Thank me. Thank the Wachowskis.
Wachowski sisters, please get back in the kitchen.
I don't even know what they would ever do. I like that is the one film like Shyamalan. He's doing his thing.
Come on the podcast, Wachowskis. We'll talk
I think they
for
would dig it. They're fucking awesome too because apparently the Broly Brawl was supposed to be 10 minutes longer. Do you know that?
that's so
Where
sick.
apparently when he jumps up, I read this like Academy Museum thing where Lily was like, "Yeah, we wanted the Smiths to hold on to him," and then like
That
it's
becomes one big
actually
Smith.
so funny too because she describes the exact visual that happened in like Superman where like all the guards are like on him and he's like rotating
Yeah.
and they like fall off. But I'm just like they really are the best to ever do it, and I pray on my fucking life. Like Lily is still tapped in producing, and Lana, I don't even know. Like they are not the Cohen brothers, you know. Like for obvious reasons, they're the sisters. Like they're the
Yeah.
goats. They're like the best. And the day that they ever announce something, like that will be such a temporal pincer movement because it's like that. Like I think might be the filmmaker that like when fingers crossed they announce something It's a game changer, dude.
Yeah, I'll have to rewatch Jupiter Ascending and I'll watch Kill Atlas again to affirm if it's still my least favorite.
So your ranking, you can stop me when I'm wrong. Reloaded, Speed Racer, Bound, Matrix, Revolutions, Resurrections, Cloud Atlas, Jupiter Ascending.
Yes, I guess I would have to rewatch Bound again to be sure because I've only seen it once. It's been so long.
Hmm.
But it would be either Bound or Matrix would flip flop. But
Hmm.
besides that, yeah, it's basically it.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, like we're like your bottom are literally my top.
Jupiter Ascending
No,
and
no,
Cloud
no,
Atlas.
Cloud Atlas and Resurrect. Oh, sorry, Jupiter Ascending stays down there, but like
And
Cloud.
it's so funny too because our favorites are our favorites because for like very similar reasons.
Yeah,
So
isn't that
it is
fucking
a beautiful
nuts?
thing. I
But
will say I should have known that I was locked in with the whole like revolutions fighting thing when the Wachowskis made car racing cool. Because I usually hate car racing too,
mhm.
and in Speed Racer like they're like literally like fisticuff
Yeah,
fighting in the cars.
yeah.
I should have known. They have they're the sauciest.
They are. They are. Well, as always, thank you guys for dipping your French fries in our sauce and just having a great meal.
If you're still here, shout the fuck out to you. It's 2 hours
If
and 15 minutes
if
in.
you are here, comment down below what your favorite cereal is. If you're a real one, I'm gonna get a comment in like 10 months that says like Rice Krispies, and I'm like, bro, we have the worst fan base. I want the comments.
And it's me all disheveled.
But yeah, guys, and above all else, again, if you didn't hear earlier, email us in at BeneflicksPod for any questions, thoughts, feelings, agreements, disagreements. If you're Team Austin, Team Tyson, any of us,
Team Liz.
yeah, you get on my ship, guys. I love you all so very much. All of our socials, our letterboxes, my YouTube, my Instagram, my TikTok, ASMR, non ASMR is in the description. Wow, 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's like the runtime of like Jackie Robinson's 42. That's crazy.
I love you guys.
I love you guys. I will catch you soon. You guys mean the world to me. Thank you all very much. Have a great one. Peace.